I opened a restaurant in Konoha and revived Hatake Sakumo at the start. Chapter 26 Another one. Don't worry, I will think about it carefully. Namikaze Minato smiled peacefully. It is equivalent to giving Uchiha Kyoshi an affirmative answer. Uchiha Ching replied. Master Minato, thank you for your support. Next time you come, I will give you a permanent free membership card. Namikaze Minato laughed. He didn't really need this thing, but Kushina should like it very much. Who doesn't like eating and drinking for free? This name is too formal, it would be better to call it Bawang Meal Card. Namikaze Minato raised his hand again, making a goodbye gesture. Jushina will be anxious to wait any longer, bye. As soon as the words fell, he left with the Flying Thunder God technique. Uchiha Kyoshi saw the effect of coming without a shadow and going without a trace, and he couldn't help sighing in a low voice. The technique of Flying Thunder God is really practical. If you use the Flying Thunder God technique to deliver food, you should be able to make a lot of money. After chatting with Namikaze Minato, Uchiha Kyoshi felt that it was time for him to continue working, so he walked back. Senju Zuma heard that Uchiha Kyoshi had returned, turned his head back, and said in a rough voice. Shing, this person is looking for you. Namikaze Minato had just left, and someone was looking for him again, and Uchiha Kyoshi suddenly felt that he was on fire. Just after Senju Bashima finished speaking, Uchiha Kyoshi stepped forward and saw a serious and familiar face. His patriarch, Uchiha Fugaku. Because Uchiha Fugaku doesn't have a good face in daily life, and his identity is his patriarch, Uchiha Kyoshi has an awkward feeling of seeing the dean at school. However, he neither participates in Uchiha's daily training, nor does he live in Uchiha's residential area, so he rarely meets Uchiha Fugaku. The patriarch came. What is the so-called matter? Uchiha Kyoshi asked. Master Patriarch, what are you doing? Uchiha Fugaku was holding the snacks he bought for his wife and children. The fresh colors inside were colorful, which didn't match his tense temperament. Shing, take a step to speak. Uchiha Kyoshi had just finished chatting with Namikaze Minato in the corner, and immediately walked back, standing face to face with Uchiha Fugaku. Looking at Uchiha Fugaku's unattractive face, Uchiha Kyoshi couldn't help but sigh the power of Uchiha Makoto's gene. Just looking at his appearance, he really couldn't think of Uchiha Fugaku as the father of Itachi and Sasuke. Habitual facial paralysis is exactly the same as Sasuke in Uchiha Kyoshi's impression. Uchiha Fugaku said in a gentle tone, Shing, your business here is very good. Lucky, it's all about the customer's support. Uchiha Tamagaku smiled, looking less serious. His personality is not as rigid and strict as it seems, but as the Konoha police force commander, he needs to treat people with dignity and act resolutely in his daily work, and it will be difficult to switch over time. Don't be modest, your restaurant is already very famous, from Sanin to civilians, they are all your regular customers here. The old customer of Sanin is Jiraiya. Because Wadao restaurant has more sweets, it is favored by young women, so Jiraiya, who likes to label it as young women, often seeks out girls here in the name of eating. When Uchiha Fugaku said this, his eyelids drooped slightly. Most of our Uchiha family loves fighting, but is not good at making a living and dealing with interpersonal relationships. Therefore, in the eyes of the public, they are often labeled as weirds who only know how to fight. Uchiha Kyoshi did not respond on the surface, but he agreed in his heart. He has an employee who perfectly matches these characteristics. You may have done it unintentionally, but it is helpful to change the prejudice of Konoha residents towards us. You know, the main job of the police department we manage is to maintain the law and order of the village, but the tribesmen are in the process of law enforcement. In the process, it is inevitable that there will be conflicts with other people and leave some bad impressions. Uchiha Chingyang can feel the helplessness in Uchiha Fugaku's heart. A bowl of water is difficult to balance, and things like maintaining law and order will slowly accumulate the reputation of the Uchiha family, but occasionally encounter things that are not handled well, or cause misunderstandings, criticism and negative comments will follow one after another. Having said so much, Uchiha Chingshin thought that Uchiha Fugaku was not just here to praise him, there should be other things. Patriarch, do you have anything else? I may need my help over there. Uchiha Kiyoshi said. Uchiha Fuyu nodded. I was just shopping for my wife and children, but when I got here, I came up with an idea and wanted to entrust you to complete it. Seeing Uchiha Fugaku being so polite, Uchiha Kiyoshi said. Master Patriarch, you can just say it directly, you don't have to be polite. Uchiha Fugaku said. When I was queuing just now, I saw the plaque at your door. I hope you can add Uchiha's family emblem on it, which will help promote the positive image of our family. It turned out that it was this matter. Uchiha Fugaku wanted to use the Hinata restaurant as a publicity window. Kiyoshi Uchiha has no objection. Although everyone knows that he belongs to the Uchiha family, it is better to put a Uchiha fan pattern on the signboard to be more distinctive. It doesn't do him any harm, it's just a little effort. It's not a big deal, I'll find someone to add it later. Uchiha replied refreshingly. Very good. Then, this is on the one hand. On the other hand, if you have any good ideas, just tell me, and I will give you full support in terms of funds and manpower. Uchiha Fugaku said seriously, with eagerness in his eyes. He thought hard all day, and finally found a somewhat useful method. Thanks to the love of the patriarch. Uchiha Kiyoshi replied politely. Speaking of ideas, he still has some ideas, such as developing entertainment in Konoha, starting Hokage's first idol girl group. But an idea is just an idea, and the plan is the most important thing. Wait until a specific and implementable plan is drawn up, and then discuss it with the investor. Moreover, regarding the Uchiha family, the first priority is the issue of life and death, and all other matters can be put behind. Uchiha Fugaku patted Uchiha Kiyoshi on the shoulder to show his appreciation and attention to the younger generation. He glanced at the plastic bag in his hand and said, "That's all for now, then I'm leaving, you can keep busy." Uchiha Kiyoshi returned to the window and continued with the original busyness. One day later in the evening, Kakashi came to Uchiha Kiyoshi's residence and informed him that he was going to prepare for the battle on the front line. After Kakashi left, Kiyoshi Uchiha discussed with his 3 employees about the suspension of consciousness. He briefly described the current situation. The location of the battlefield is the border position northeast of Konoha, and the warring party is Union Village of the Land of Thunder, but it is not ruled out that there will be Union Village of the Land of Earth coming to intervene in the middle, and the possibility of achieving a 3-party chaotic situation cannot be ruled out. On the battlefield, Uchiha Kiyoshi needs at least one person to control his body and help him fight. Chapter 27 Ways to Increase Chakra Levels. Kiyoshi Uchiha discussed with the 3 of them, and they all agreed to provide remote guidance. Hatake Sakumo knew that Senju Hashirama was sitting with Uchiha Madara, so it had nothing to do with him. Uchiha Madara is happy to experience the surge of hormones on the battlefield, and the feeling of fighting with a bloody smell. And for the purpose of protecting Konoha, Senju Bashima will naturally go all out. The only problem is that due to your physical limitations, many of our ninjutsu cannot be used. So your upper limit will not be too high. It is enough to save your life, but it will still be dangerous in the face of strong enemies. Kionjujujian said euphemistically. The implication is that Uchiha Kiyoshi himself is too weak. In all fairness, he doesn't have enough chakra, his physical function is low, and he doesn't have the necessary physical conditions to perform the blood succession limit. Uchiha Kyoto looked at Uchiha Madara. Then can we inject pupil power like before? Uchiha Madara shook his head. No, although it is said that pupil power is injected, I actually set a transfer seal on your eyes and sealed my pupil power in your eyes. Because you have not opened Sharingan, this seal the spell is a bit more complicated than the general spell, and it can't last for too long, and it won't take effect when you arrive on the battlefield. It turns out that this is the case, and the situation of not opening Sharingan is still a bit embarrassing. Sensho Zuma stroked his chin while thinking and said, "Then change your mind. As long as you have enough chakra, Madara and I can do something. I have a way to help you increase your chakra." Uchiha Kiyoshi thought this was also the case, Just the power of Uchiha Madara's extinguishing fire could suppress a class of Mizuden. The two humanoid Gundams can make him walk sideways on the battlefield with any trick. After Senju Zuma finished speaking, Uchiha Madara squinted his eyes, and he also thought of the method Senju Zuma said. Everyone discussed for a while, and Hatake Sakumo felt that he couldn't get in a word, so he thought it's better to read the newspaper with peace of mind. He spread out the large newspaper, and today's content is still explosive. Oshimaru went to the bathroom in the park. Because of his long hair, skin color and figure, some men who only saw the back thought it was a tall beauty who strayed into the men's toilet, which caused many embarrassing misunderstandings. When the reporter arrived, and unknown the situation, the man who came forward to make a joke has already been wrapped around the neck by Orochimaru with a snake, and he is in a state of difficulty breathing. Hatake Sakumo subconsciously, tisk, he felt that he dared to report the embarrassing stories of Sanin one after another, so bold, he would not believe that the newspaper was not a hard-connected accountant. He continued to look curiously at the following content. Due to the large number of snakes on the scene, the reporter could not get close to Oshimaru himself for a close-up interview. Out of consideration for the reporter's personal safety, the report was forced to be suspended. In order to make up for the expectations of the readers, the next issue of this newspaper will focus on following up Master Tsunade's legendary gambling career, so stay tuned. Uchiha Kiyoshi asked curiously, "What method?" Kion Shujujian put his hands on his hips and said, "It's what I used when I was summoned by you, Mr. Death God. It's a method of absorbing natural energy, which is generally called the immortal mode." Sensho Zuma said a very shocking thing in a calm tone. Uchiha Kiyoshi's eyes widened suddenly. Why is this person talking about fairy mode so lightly? Senju Zuma thought nothing of it, although he also felt that the immortal mode was practical, but except for dueling with Madara, his own chakra was almost enough, and there were very few opportunities to use it. Therefore, he is not very able to understand other people's anxiety caused by the lack of chakra. At the beginning, Kion Shozujian dared to distribute the 9-tailed beasts to the other 4 big countries, except that he was sincerely peace-loving. On the other hand, he really doesn't think how powerful the tailed beasts are, not to mention that he has left the most powerful 9 tails in Konoha. Uchiha Madara snorted coldly after hearing this, and he knew that what Senju Zuma wanted to talk about was the immortal mode. He still can't forget the shocking scene of Hashirama's wooden dummy technique and a slap on Juwei's forehead. When did Kyuubi suffer such grievances? Hashirama, when did you treat the children of the Uchiha family so well? Senju chakra is not such a cheap thing. Uchiha Madara said with a look of disdain. The sudden finding of faults caught Sensho Zuma by surprise. Uchiha Kiyoshi didn't expect it, and felt that Uchiha Madara was a little messy. It's really easy for these two to quarrel when they appear together. Kion Shozujian said in a deep voice. Madara, how many times have I said that I have no prejudice against the Uchiha family? All Konoha families are treated equally in front of me, there is no distinction between high and low, besides. With a sudden temper, Senju Zuma directly raised his finger and pointed at Uchiha Madara. Madara, ask yourself, am I treating you badly? Uchiha was stunned for a moment. The meaning is correct, but this statement sounds a bit weird. Uchiha Madara thought to himself, what is this saying? He raised his eyes and looked at Sensho Bashirama. His face was still indifferent and with a trace of resentment, but he didn't continue to refute, and turned his face slightly to the other side. What he was really pointing at was not Sensho Bashima, but Sensho Fima, Zujian's younger brother. The man who arranged for the Uchiha family to manage the entire Konoha police department, but also set up a series of measures to monitor and guard against Uchiha. After that, the disciples of Sensho Feijian became the core of the current high-level Konoha, and implemented these measures more thoroughly. From surveillance to targeting, that is where Uchiha Madara is dissatisfied. Although he has been in the dark underground for a long time, he has been observing Konoha's movements through various means. Senju Zuma also understood that Uchiha Madara's resentment was not on him, but the person involved was not at the scene. It's so noisy, I can't understand it, so I don't bother to continue arguing with Uchiha Madara. The atmosphere was tense. Hatake Sakumo, immersed in joy after reading all the breaking news, suddenly raised his head only to find that the atmosphere froze, almost laughing out of place in this situation. A news headline he just saw read. Green phantoms and strange noises appeared in the playground in the early hours of the morning. After on-site investigation, the truth turned out to be like this. Another headline party. Hatake Sakumo knew that it was Meidakai who couldn't sleep and got up to train, and he should have been chanting, Declaration of Youth. He coughed twice to hide his emotions. Uchiha Kiyoshi had no choice but to change the subject. Uncle Hashirama, can I really master the fairy mode you mentioned in a short time? A friendly, uncle, let the tense muscles on Senju Zuma's face relax. Of course, I can give you a demonstration right now. However, I haven't experienced the feeling of controlling other people's bodies through consciousness. The wonderful method they both talked about should be initiated by you, right? Chapter 28 Immortal Mode. Then, Uncle Hashirama, let's try it now. It is good. Uchiha Qingning used his consciousness suspension ability to connect his body with Senjujuma's consciousness. The five senses migrated between the thousand-handed columns, and his appearance appeared in the field of vision. So this is the feeling of looking up at people. I haven't experienced it for a long time. Sensho Zujian said in his heart, he thought it was very interesting. Although I know it is someone else's body, as long as I get used to it slowly, there is no sense of disobedience or awkwardness, just like controlling my own body. Now he is even more curious about Uchiha Kiyoshi. Obviously has such an exaggerated ability, but the strength is very ordinary. Senju Zuma said to Uchiha Kiyoshi with consciousness, your body is not used to natural energy yet, let's take it slowly. Senju Zuma controls Uchiha Kiyoshi's body. Close your eyes, make mudras in your hands, solidify your mind, and feel the state of being one with nature. This is a state of selflessness, in a certain sense, as if it has become a part of nature. Standing quietly like a tree, the state of mind is like a lake without wind passing by, only the water trembles, but no waves. If Senjujuma uses his own body, it will take an instant to activate the fairy mode. But in order to let Uchiha Kiyoshi's body get used to this brand new process, he slowed down the process as much as possible, allowing natural energy to slowly enter the body, and then reconcile. On the basis of ordinary chakra, mixed with natural energy, there is Shanshu chakra. Ordinary chakra is refined from mental energy and physical energy, while Senju chakra is a balance of three energies plus natural energy. Uchiha Madara watched, and he saw Uchiha Kiyoshi's face slowly appearing the same red-eye shadow as Hashirama. He has known other immortal models, but no matter how he compares them, only the immortal model of Kyansho Zujian is the most perfect. There is no need for concise preparations, and there is no time limit, but it has a chakra boost that is not inferior to that of the tailed orc Shiriki. Just thinking about it makes people feel difficult. Immortal method, would escape and reel thousands of hands are the eternal pain in Uchiha Madara's heart. When receiving natural energy between Senjuju, Uchiha Kiyoshi also felt the changes inside his body. With the participation of natural energy, the amount of chakra circulating in his meridians increased at an unbelievable speed, expanding by incalculable multiples. At the same time, Uchiha Kiyoshi found that his senses became extremely clear, not only clear ears and eyesight, but also quick response. It also has a greater range of spiritual perception. In other words, even if you can't perceive ninjutsu, you still have the ability to perceive ninjas. Now standing in the lobby of the restaurant, he can also feel which of the people in the street outside the gate are ninjas and which are civilians. As well as their chakra status, where is the specific location. Uchiha Kiyoshi couldn't help but recall Naruto and Jiraiya's senjutsu modes for comparison. Jiraiya and Naruto's Miyaugashin fairy mode, in addition to the eye shadow on the face, will also produce different degrees of frog-like conditions. For example, the eyes become frog eyes. Yaoshizu's Longdi Cave fairy mode also forms snake pupils, snake-like tentacles grow on the head, and the skin becomes scaly. However, there is no similar change in the immortal mode of Kyansho Zujian, which shows that his immortal mode is more perfect. After 10 minutes, Senjuzuma helped Kiyoshi Uchiha fully enter the fairy mode. Don't take back control of your own body. Natural energy is difficult to control. If you don't handle it well, you will die on the spot. I will help you maintain the state of immortal mode and let your body adapt slowly. Hyansho Zujian exhorted. Uchiha Kiyoshi naturally did not dare to act rashly. Sensho Zujian continued to control his body, sitting quietly on the chair, motionless, like a rock. After half an hour, he opened his eyes. The body has already adapted a bit. I will lower the intensity of your natural energy now. You can try to feel the natural energy intake by yourself. Senjuzuma patiently guided Uchiha Kiyoshi. Kiyoshi Uchiha followed Senju Hashirama's instructions extremely seriously. My experience is. Senjuzuma organized the words in his head. It may be strange to say this, but the truth is this. You have to imagine yourself as a brainless, unconscious vegetative person, as if you just left a body that doesn't matter in the world. It doesn't matter thinking and consciousness, and it doesn't matter the five senses and emotions. In short, feel nature without distraction, and don't think about anything else. Kiyoshi Uchiha tried hard. Half an hour passed like this. Hyansho Zujian said with some puzzlement, it seems that the progress is a bit slow. This sentence gave Uchiha Kiyoshi a blow. He thought that after only practicing for such a short period of time, he could absorb a little bit of natural energy smoothly, and show a little trace on his face, which is already quite a performance of understanding. But I didn't expect Senjuzuma to feel slow. Uchiha Madara on the side said, not everyone is like you, Hashirama. As I said before, the fairy mode is not a leak in the field, you can take it if you want. Hyansho Zujian still didn't understand. In his cognition, it was natural to follow his formula and complete the immortal mode. But he also remembered that a long time ago, he wanted to teach his younger brother Phaegian the immortal mode, but Phaegian failed to learn it. Sorry, I said the wrong thing again. Sensho Zujian laughed and scratched his head. But it's not a big deal. Now that your body has gradually adapted, you can use this method to let me take over your body, and I can help you enter the immortal mode very quickly. Uchiha Ching nodded, heaved a sigh of relief, and felt relieved a lot. Hatake Sakumo, who had been silent all this time, quietly tried it himself when he was bored, but after several efforts, there was no progress at all, and it was difficult to feel the existence of natural energy. When it was time for dinner, there happened to be no suitable ingredients in the kitchen to prepare dinner, so Kiyoshi Uchiha planned to go out and buy some ready-made delicacies. Buy some refreshing cold dishes, and pack 4 bowls of Ichiraku Ramen's classic tonkatsu miso ramen. Uchiha Ching went out. The door was closed tightly, and after Uchiha Kiyoshi walked out for a distance, Uchiha Madara looked at Senjuzuma and said, Zujian, I still don't understand why you taught him such a precious ability in the immortal mode completely. You obviously don't know his origin very well. Sensho Zuma didn't even think about it, and replied in a rough voice. Is the fairy mode very valuable? Everyone can learn it. Tisk. Uchiha Madara suddenly wanted to slap himself. Why did he have to talk to this idiot? This idiot can distribute tail beasts to other countries at will, and he can be expected to say something nice. Hyansho Zujian smiled and continued. What you said makes sense. But I didn't think too much about it. I just thought that he was going to the battlefield to fight for Konoha. Since that's the case, if I help him, I also help the civilians of Konoha. Uchiha Madara didn't take Hashirama's words for granted, but he didn't want to argue, he knew it was a matter of values. You and I don't know what to do after clearing this kid. Sensho Zuma raised his head and thought for a moment. It's true. He is special in every aspect, and it's hard not to be suspicious. But my instinct tells me that Ching is not a bad-hearted kid. After all, he will help me slice meat while eating barbecue. Chapter 29. Listening to this unreliable answer, Uchiha Madara's eyelids twitched a few times. Can you convince yourself that way? Sensho Bashima rubbed his head vigorously, wondering if. Oh, I can't tell. Anyway, it's just a matter of feeling. Anyway, have you ever seen such a lazy careerist? In addition to being mysterious at the beginning, Uchiha Kiyoshi in Senju Bashima's impression as studying food, sitting in the backyard shaking a fan to read novels, and chatting with him. Uchiha Madara has always been thoughtful and will not trust anyone easily. Although he agrees with the second half of Senjujuma's sentence, he still feels that he is too hasty. But this matter has nothing to do with him, so there is no need to keep asking. In the early morning of the next day, Kiyoshi Uchiha followed the instructions and came to an ordinary training ground outside Konoha to gather. The air was cold, the mist was thick, and dew trembled on the tips of the green grass. Before departure, Kiyoshi Uchiha put some basic supplies such as shuriken, kunai, bingliang pills, and detonating charms in his package. Passing through the fog and coming to the open space among the woodlands, Kiyoshi Uchiha saw the figure of Minato Namikaze. Standing next to him was Kakashi. Namikaze Minato turned around, his face could not hide his exhaustion and burnout, and his eyes were bloodshot. He hadn't closed his eyes for 2 days and 2 nights. He had to use the Flying Thunder God technique to shuttle across the battlefield and engage in bloody and sharp confrontation with the enemy, but he also had to perform his duties as a commander and give timely instructions according to changes in the situation. Both physically and mentally exhausting. Before Uchiha Kiyoshi, he sent more than a dozen ninjas to the front line, and after Uchiha Kiyoshi, there are still many people waiting for him. Seeing Namikaze Minato's appearance, Uchiha Kiyoshi probably understood the reason why Namikaze Minato was young enough to become Hokage in his 20s. It's all spelled out. Seeing Uchiha Kiyoshi's arrival, Namikaze Minato worked hard to make himself look less tired. Ching, now I will use the Flying Thunder God technique to send you and Kakashi to the front line. Namikaze Minato cuts straight to the point and speaks extremely fast. After finishing speaking, he stepped forward and put his hands on the shoulders of Kiyoshi Uchiha and Kakashi. Are you ready? Being my team member may require a bit of adaptation. Under normal circumstances, it will take a certain amount of time to rush from Konoha to the front line. You can slowly adapt to the battlefield environment and adjust your mental state. However, if you fly directly to the battlefield with the Thunder God technique, you must be ready to face the enemy hand to hand in the blink of an eye. Ready. Uchiha Kiyoshi said forcefully. Namikaze Minato nodded and said, okay, after arriving at the front line, Hiei and Shikaju will tell you the specific situation. He raised and lowered his hand, patting Kiyoshi Uchiha and Kakashi on the shoulders. In an instant, the space changes and the field of vision changes. The dense fog remained, but the forest glade in front of him turned into the entrance of a cave. A bonfire was lit in the cave, and Shikahi Sonara, Kaiichi Yamanaka, and 7 Konoha ninjas stood by the entrance of the cave. Uchiha Kiyoshi shook his head, he was not used to moving in space, and felt dizzy for a moment. From the looks of it, this is where the team led by Shikahi Sonara took a break for a while. 2 of the Zuludi trio appeared, and it seemed that the battle situation here was more serious. Namikaze Minato said to Nara Shikaku, Shikaku, these are the 2 young fighters who came to support. Nara Shikaku nodded. Thank you for your help, Minato. While successfully completing the task, we will try our best to ensure the safety of the 2 children. Namikaze Minato leaned against the stone wall, closed his eyes and rested for 5 minutes, then opened his eyes, took out a bingliang pill from the package, and put it in his mouth. Then let's do this first. I still need to rush to other places immediately, and I will leave this place to you first. Leave it to us, Minato. Namikaze Minato left using the Flying Thunder God technique. Nara Shikahisa turned around and looked at Kakashi and Uchiha Kiyoshi. I'm sorry, you just arrived, you haven't adapted to the environment, and you are about to participate in the battle. Uchiha Kiyoshi understood what Namikaze Minato said. He was still eating 3-color balls in his restaurant 15 minutes ago, and now he has come to the front line and is ready to fight. Before Uchiha Kiyoshi and Kakashi responded, Kaiichi Yamanaka, who has been closing his eyes and concentrating on the side, using sensory ninjutsu to detect the surrounding situation, suddenly said, Lu Ju, the team we met yesterday has reappeared nearby, southeast, about 800 meters away from us. Nara Shikahisa frowned, Time was running out, but he had to pass the necessary intelligence information to the new members. He said quickly, "This is a special team of Union. All the members of this team can use ninjutsu proficiently. It has great lethality and fast speed. Because of the extremely fast movement, ninjutsu is difficult to hit. It is very difficult to deal with. Be careful, Gon. Ninjutsu." Hearing this word, Uchiha Kiyoshi couldn't help but recall that Union Village is a ninja village of the fighting school that advocates swordsmanship and ninja body art. Ninjutsu does not require seals, and can instantly improve physical function. Achieve extremely fast speed, improve the body's attack power and defense power, and have both offense and defense. It is not difficult to imagine that although the cloud-hidden ninjas they are facing now, who specialize in ninjutsu, are not as powerful as Lei Yingai, they are still very difficult to deal with. Before Shikahisa Nara finished speaking, Kaiichi Yamanaka shouted eagerly again. "They are moving very fast and are coming towards us. Their team should also have sentient ninjas." Nara Shikahisa had a serious expression, and immediately commanded, "Get ready for battle. Always pay attention to the movement of the shadow and seize the opportunity." With an order, the 11 Konoha ninjas, including Kiyoshi Uchiha himself, all drew their weapons. Uchiha Kiyoshi heard the footsteps getting closer, and he could roughly know the enemy's position without Kaiichi Yamanaka's notification. These reckless Union ninjas didn't seem to intend to engage in maneuvers, but directly confronted them head-on. Golem. Uchiha Kiyoshi suddenly felt wet and sticky discomfort from his legs. Looking down, the surrounding ground began to soften into liquid, forming a large swamp. This is Tuden. Wonkwanma, the enemy is to restrict their actions. This also confirmed Yamanaka Haichi's conjecture that the other party does have excellent perception ninjas, and they can use ninjutsu to block them from a long distance before they meet. Under the pressure of the swamp, Kiyoshi Uchiha and the others had to disrupt their formation and lean towards solid ground. While moving, Nara Shikahisa secretly hid more than a dozen detonating symbols under the dark swamp. Soon, the sound came to the front, and 10 sturdy Union ninjas rushed out of the woods. Chapter 30. The 7 Cloud Ninjas kept charging towards Konoha Fang, and the other 3 Cloud Ninjas stopped halfway, and their hands began to form seals. This is one of Yun Yin's classic combat modes, some of which are frontal, and some of which provide ninjutsu support. When the Konoha Fang ninja was planning to distance himself for a roundabout operation, the 3 Cloud Ninjas in the rear finished their seals and shouted at the same time. "Tu dun, tu liubi." 3 tall and solid earth walls rose from the ground, directly blocking the rear of the Konoha ninjas. Cooperating with the previous Yellow Spring Swamp and the existing mountainous terrain, Konoha Fang's range of activities was limited to a narrow range. The purpose of Union Fang is to make Konoha Fang no room to display various ninjutsu skills. The 7 Cloud Ninjas started ninjutsu, took off vigorously, and jumped over the swamp. Nara Shikahisa took advantage of most of the Cloud Ninjas in midair, and detonated more than a dozen detonating charms he had hidden before. A fire ignited under the swamp, and an explosion blasted upwards. Boom, boom, boom. There was a roar of explosions around the swamp. The 5 Cloud Ninjas were directly overturned by the explosion in the air and fell to the ground. But because the explosion was blocked by the swamp, its power was weakened. These Cloud Ninjas are as tough as wild beasts, and they have started ninjutsu to improve their physical defense. If you look closely, you can see a faint electric arc flashing across your body. Therefore, although the explosion caused obvious damage to them, it would not deprive them of their combat effectiveness. The remaining 2 Cloud Ninjas landed steadily. Their eyes were like arrows, and they immediately looked at the only young man on the field with a fierce attitude. Kakashi and Kiyoshi Uchiha. Uchiha Kiyoshi realized that he was being targeted. On the battlefield, people of their child's age are the easiest to be targeted. Generally speaking, children lack combat experience and strength, so they are easy to succeed, and attacking children will definitely attract the attention of other ninjas, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Uchiha Kiyoshi thought that Kakashi had a good reputation, so he ruled it out. At present, the opponent thinks that he is the most suitable target for attack. In the cruel ninja world, under normal circumstances, this kind of judgment is not a problem. However, there are always exceptions. Uncle Hashirama, work. Uchiha Kiyoshi was on the border, using his consciousness to send a message to Senju Hashirama far away in Konoha village. Got it, I'm eating noodles. Sensho Zujian put down the garlic in his hand. In the next second, Uchiha Kiyoshi felt the infusion of natural energy, and red eyeshadow in Sage mode appeared on his face. The two cloud ninjas raised their ninjutsu to 100%, and rushed forward like hungry wolves. 2 done. 2 Liubi. In front of Kiyoshi Uchiha, an earthen wall rose. His teammates on the side used ninjutsu to help him block Yun-Nin's assault. The earth wall has not yet been fully formed. A cloud ninja leaned on his body, turned sideways, and arrogantly shouldered the earth wall. The clods of soil shattered, and the barrier dissipated. The two formed a cooperation, and one person broke through and cleared the obstacles. The other stepped past him and pointed straight at the target. Ching, retreat. Nara Shikahisa shouted, made mudras with his hands, and cast shadow imitation technique. The shadow under him was quickly approaching the two cloud ninjas. At this time, as long as Uchiha Kiyoshi retreats and Yunin takes another step forward, Nara Shikaku's shadow can be attached to Yunin's shadow, successfully locking the opponent's actions. Uchiha Kiyoshi stood there as if he didn't hear it. He knew Nara Shikahisa's thoughts, but there was no need to deal with it so troublesomely. Yun-Nin came to Uchiha Kiyoshi with a ferocious expression, his eyes bulging, revealing ferocity. He raised a huge iron fist, and the finger bones were facing the bridge of Uchiha Kiyoshi's nose. What is Ching doing? Didn't he react? Kakashi had already raised his forehead, revealing Sharingan. The high-intensity lightning chakra gathered in his palm. Chidori's sharp chirping resounded in his ears. Kakashi dragged the sharp blade flickering with lightning, and ran quickly towards Kumo Shinobi. He felt that Uchiha Kiyoshi might have his own countermeasures, but in such a situation, he couldn't let it go. Uchiha Kiyoshi took a deep breath, and threw a punch in an unremarkable way. Seeing this scene, the rest of the Konoha ninjas breathed quickly, feeling that they could hear the crisp fracture sound in the next second. Uchiha Kiyoshi's fist met Yun-Nin's fist. Click. An incomprehensible force shook Yun-Nin's arm. His expression changed from full confidence to a pained contortion of pain. The Konoha ninjas really heard a fracture. They recovered from their astonishment. I heard the sound of fracture. But it seems that the broken person is the opposite. Kiyoshi Uchiha didn't expect that either. Didn't expect the sound to be so good. What? The bones in the arm were firmly broken, and the pain was unbearable. Yun-Ren wailed and quickly retracted the arm. Looking down, the fracture was already swollen. Shikaji Unara raised his eyebrows, thinking that this child is so powerful, he was worried for nothing. His shadow is still stretching forward. Yun-Nin raised his hand halfway, and froze for an instant. He was flustered, his eyes glanced down, and he had indeed been hit by the shadow imitation technique. Kakashi was extremely surprised when he saw this scene on the way, but he reacted quickly. Chidori's chest was broken, and blood flowed out. This cloud ninja struggled twice, then fell to the ground without a sound. The rest of Yun-Nin felt bad. They had just fought against each other yesterday and had the upper hand. Why did such an extra monster appear today? Yun-Nin, who had just broken through the mud flow wall, turned around and ran away. Uchiha Kiyoshi launched the instant body technique through the Sage mode, and stopped in front of him. This cloud ninja saw the situation clearly, didn't want to continue to entangle, changed direction, and stretched out his hand to push Uchiha Kiyoshi aside. Uchiha Kiyoshi spread out his arms, twisted his arm, and pulled it down forcefully. As if being sucked in, Yunin's body hit the ground heavily. Uchiha Kiyoshi kicked his head, and he lost consciousness. Ching, let me control your body and try some simple ninjutsu. Senju Zuma observed the situation on the battlefield through the sharing of 5 senses, and proposed to Kiyoshi Uchiha. Uncle Hashirama, my body can't use your mudden. Uchiha Kiyoshi asked curiously. I use Wooden Dungeon because it's easy to use, and I don't only know how to use Wooden Dungeon. Wood Dungeon needs to master the changes in the chakra nature of the two attributes of Water Dungeon and Earth Dungeon. My accomplishments in Water Dungeon and Earth Dungeon are also not good weak. After all, he used Uchiha Kyoshi's body to start making seals. Kyansho Zujian continued. For example, my Water Dungeon should be a bit worse than Phaegian's. When Uchiha Seichi heard this, he felt that the situation was dire. The Kyanshuban is Hayden. He hastened to persuade. Uncle, there's no need to act too aggressively now, take your time. The tree attracts the wind, and before he fully possesses the power of the shadow level, he thinks it is better to cover up a little bit, and let the small restaurant keep a low profile for a while. The ability shown is too exaggerated, and he should be invited to the Hokage building to talk to a group of high-level executives. I know, just an appetizer. Chapter 31 Recognized. When Uchiha Kyoshi started to seal, everyone in the audience looked at him in unison. Whether it was Konoha Fang's teammate or Yun Yin Fang's enemy, they all knew that the punch just now was a strange force. Concentrate chakra on your fists and fingers to obtain a powerful destructive force that cannot be exerted by the body alone. But this kind of skill requires superb chakra control ability, and Nara Shikahisa has only seen it in Tsunade, one of the three ninjas. It is a bit exaggerated to show it on a young man who was unknown before. The three cloud ninjas in the back saw Uchiha Kyoshi raising his hand, and immediately started to form seals themselves. Water Escape. Water Dragon Ball Technique. Zichen Mao Yin, 4 seals per second. When Senjujuma began to release chakra and shouted this sentence, Uchiha Kyoshi himself did not expect that he had finished the seal. In his impression, the Water Dragon Bomb technique seems to have more than 40 seals, and the order is probably more difficult to remember than the periodic table of elements. In memory, Kakashi and Momochi no longer stood on the lake and stared at each other for 2 minutes, and then they only did seals. The three cloud ninjas were still in the process of forming seals, and the sound of water flowed in their ears. With Uchiha Kyoshi as the center, a large amount of circular water flow is generated, spiraling upwards, and converging into a water dragon tens of meters long. The winding water dragon blocked the line of sight in midair and cast a large shadow, which brought a huge sense of oppression to the cloud ninjas who looked up. The cloud ninjas knew that the knot seal could not be completed. The water dragon hit the ground directly and turned into a turbulent water flow. The huge impact swept the ground like a tyrannical hand, stripping the cloud ninjas from the ground and completely sinking into the water flow. What? Yun Ren turned his back and swallowed a large mouthful of water, pouring it into his lungs, panting so hard to breathe. Sensho Zujian explained. The general water dragon bomb technique requires 44 seals. Although the power is not bad in the water escape, the seal formation is too cumbersome. After completing 44 seals, the enemy may have thrown several ninjutsu. The later version was learned by me, and only 4 seals are needed. Watching the water wash away the thick trees, Uchiha Kyoshi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. So that's what you meant by the hors d'oeuvres. Kyanshujujian not only summoned a large-scale water flow out of thin air in a place far away from the water source, but also compressed the water flow to a certain extent. Use chakra to narrow the distance between water molecules, making it in a high-pressure state, which greatly increases the strength of the impact. When the water dragon bomb landed, it directly smashed out a large hole visible to the naked eye. It was just a ninjutsu that disarmed the 3 ninjas of Yun Yin Fang without any resistance. Kyanju Zujian replied. Your team doesn't seem to be in very good condition. A small half of them are injured, and more than half of them are weak. It must be resolved cleanly. Uchiha Kyoshi listened to the words coming from his consciousness, and could imagine the scene of the first Hokage guarding the gate decades ago. Kaiichi Yamanaka, who was so nervous that his forehead was sweating just now, felt that the scene changed too quickly. He felt that he seemed to have nothing to do, just watch this young man perform. What puzzled him was that he didn't feel anything special about Uchiha Kyoshi at first. But just for a moment, Uchiha Kyoshi's chakra momentum has been raised by an unknown number of levels. He had only seen this special situation when his friend Shudao Dingzhou took the 3-color pill. The water gradually dissipated, and the three Yunren lay unconscious on the ground. Seeing the situation, the rest of the Cloud Ninja decisively chose to turn their backs on the enemy. Retreat. The leader raised his voice and yelled, and then the 5 Cloud Ninjas threw a smoke bomb on the ground together. Smoke filled the air, obscuring vision. I only heard the hurried footsteps getting farther and farther away, and gradually became inaudible. Uchiha Kiyoshi didn't intend to continue chasing him, so he turned off the fairy mode, his eye shadow disappeared, turned around, and faced his teammates. The smoke dissipated, and only Konoha's ninja and the 3 Kumo ninjas lying unconscious were left on the scene, and there was a brief silence. Nara Shikahisa supported his waist with one hand, and laughed at himself. It's easier for me than sitting in the office to catch fish. I will report to Hokage-sama like this: Ching alone repelled a special team of Union, and we have provided valuable spiritual support. Ha ha ha. The other members of the team laughed when they heard Captain Lu Ju's joke. Originally, their strong curiosity about Uchiha Kiyoshi was shelved. In this case, Uchiha Kiyoshi didn't know how to deal with it, so he scratched his head and smiled embarrassedly. Nara Shikahisa ordered his men to tie up the 3 Cloud Ninjas who were lying on the ground. Kakashi pulled down his forehead to cover his Sharingan, sighed lightly, and looked at Kiyoshi Uchiha with his dead fish eyes when he was relaxed. His previous conjecture was correct, Uchiha Kiyoshi also hid a lot of things. Although he thought of this, the situation just now made him quite worried for a while. Kakashi patted Kiyoshi Uchiha on the shoulder and complained softly. "You guy, how much are you hiding?" A young Chunin recognized Uchiha Kiyoshi, reacted, and said loudly in surprise. "Aren't you the owner of that Wadao restaurant?" "Oh, yes. That's him. I go to Crazy Wednesday every week." As soon as this person started, others also realized it. Uchiha Kiyoshi usually didn't wear a forehead protector in the restaurant, and he was dressed in casual clothes, which looked different from his current combat attire, so he wasn't recognized immediately. The ninja who recognized him was also familiar with Uchiha Ching, and then he only thought of it when he saw Uchiha's Uchiha fan clan emblem. Another teammate said emotionally. "My girlfriend and I met in front of his restaurant. It was a sunny evening, and I gave her the last sundae of the day." Uchiha was stunned for a moment, thinking. There is still this story. But the boss himself is still single. He didn't expect his small dilapidated restaurant to be so famous. But that's okay, the identity of the boss has temporarily attracted their attention, so there is no need to explain their own strength. Yamanaka Kai used sensory ninjutsu to explore the surroundings and found no signs of other chakras, so he allowed them to chat a little longer to relax their tense nerves. Just a reminder. Let's go back to the temporary stronghold to settle down, keep your voice down. Immediately, Uchiha Kiyoshi was surrounded by 4 teammates, chatting while walking. These regular customers habitually call Uchiha Kiyoshi, "Boss. Boss, when will we launch a new variety of desserts, so that I can have a new topic to chat with the girl I like? Hurry up, don't be impatient. Boss, can you take care of your employee who usually wears blue clothes? His attitude is very bad. Every time he serves me food, I feel like I'm in prison." Uchiha Kiyoshi smiled and said, "He is my relative, it is more difficult to manage." Another person answered, "Actually, it's not that everyone hates him. My sister told me that she thinks that man has a special sense of handsomeness. When he gives him a cold stare and shakes his face, she will be very happy. I think it's your sister's problem." This statement was immediately dismissed by the complainer. Nara Shikahisa casually took out a cigarette and lit it, muttering, "My wife is pregnant, so I can't smoke at home. I can only get addicted to smoking on the battlefield." It's funny to say. Chapter 32 The Next Battlefield. Shikahisa Nara raised his head and exhaled a standard and beautiful smoke ring, and put his arm on the shoulder of his friend Kaiichi Yamanaka. "Hi-yi, I'm asking you seriously, do you want your child to be a boy or a girl?" Yamanaka Hai took a puff of secondhand smoke, waved his hand, and said, "Boys and girls are fine. If it's just a girl, I will be reluctant when I get married. However, my flower shop does let my daughter take care of it. Nara Shikahisa smiled and patted Yamanaka Kaiichi on the back. You think so far. But it's true, boys and girls are different in some places. I hope it's a girl. If my future boy has the same temper as me, it will be really annoying. I'm busy. When I came home from work one day and asked him to rub my sore shoulders, he might just yawn lazily and not move. Shikahisa Nara chuckled. But after thinking about it, boys also have the advantages of being boys. When I am scolded, someone will help me share the firepower. If I am a girl, I will be scolded by my daughter and wife together. Double the pressure. I can't bear it. Hearing Nara Shikahisa's happy expression, Yamanaka Kaiichi couldn't help showing an expectant smile, raised his head slightly, and daydreamed again and again. When the two of them were chatting, the area next to Uchiha Kiyoshi gradually became lively. Boss, can you recruit some female employees? We are tired of those two rough-skinned men. Uchiha Kiyoshi silently agreed in his heart. You still think about it. Senjujuma knew what they were talking about through Uchiha Kiyoshi's five senses, and couldn't help complaining. Your words hurt people. Shikahisa Nara turned his head and found that the chat over there was surprisingly good. It seems that Hinata restaurant is indeed a very topical topic. I seem to have heard some insight. Shikahisa Nara said with a smile. He also went to Wadao restaurants a lot. Yamanaka Kai was not very interested in this kind of topic. He glanced sideways, just in time to see the family emblem on Uchiha Kiyoshi's back. Lu Ju, having said that, this kid, while running a restaurant with a booming business, has such strength at the same time, isn't it? It's unbelievable. Shikahisa Nara took a puff of cigarette casually, but he didn't really care about it. What happened in the ninja world is only the difference between what happened and what didn't happen. There is no reasonable argument. We just report the truth and let the superiors judge. Hey, I heard a few days ago that there is a man named Uchi, the child of Boja Shui, launched an illusion from a long distance, and instantly caused the two ninjas of Kurigaker to fall to the ground. They are younger than him. How can I explain it? That's true. While resting, a figure flashed in front of Nara Shikahisa. Namikaze Minato was teleported again through the Flying Thunder God technique. Lu Ju, how is the situation? Namikaze Minato found that the scene was very harmonious, and there seemed to be no fighting. Shikahisa Nara pointed at the three Yunin captives who were firmly tied up on the ground next to him. Here, a little harvest. We didn't do much work, it was all done by the newcomer you brought alone. Newcomer. Namikaze Minato repeated. He didn't connect the sentence just now with Kiyoshi Uchiha. It sounded like Shikahisa Nara was joking. Lu Ju, you're not kidding, are you? Shikahisa Nara shook his head slightly, and said with a helpless smile. I thought you were joking. Before you brought him, I didn't know him at all. As a result, we seniors were ashamed as soon as we took the shot. Nara Shikahisa told Namikaze Minato the whole process in detail. What? Namikaze Minato was also dumbfounded after hearing this. Looking at the three comatose and weak men from the land of thunder on the ground, and then looking at the young man with an easygoing face, Kiyoshi Uchiha felt that there must be something wrong. Is it the wrong way for me to use the Flying Thunder God technique? Let's talk about this later. Namikaze Minato's expression returned to seriousness. I just got the information that there has been a three-way melee between Konoha, Yinyan, and Union on the deeper front in the north. Now the front troops are in urgent need of reinforcements, so the superior ordered your team to go there quickly. Nara Shikahisa took the cigarette butt out of his mouth, threw it on the ground, and stamped it out with his foot. Understood. Namikaze Minato nodded. Lu Ju, take my special kunai, and we will meet up ahead later. He turned his head and glanced at the three captives. It was a burden to drag the three captives with the team, and Nara Shikaku and the others must not be allowed to continue to carry them away. I'll bring these three people back to Anbu, you can go on your way without worry. It is good. Namikaze Minato came to the three captives, applied the Flying Thunder God spell, and took them away with teleportation. Shikahisa Nara said to himself. If I know this ninjutsu, I can go back to play a game of shogi now. He clapped his palms and said loudly. Brothers, after the rest, let's continue on our way. We will head north all the way to support the front line. The people who were chatting just now became quiet and serious in an instant. After extinguishing the bonfire in the cave, Shikahi Sonara led the team to leave the cave stronghold and shuttle through the woods. While marching, he paid attention to the movement around him. Kakashi and Uchiha Kyoshi walked side by side. Seeing that the others were at a certain distance from them, Kakashi's doubts surfaced again. After seeing the book that Hatake Sakumo left him, he has connected many things together. Kakashi leaned closer to Uchiha Kyoshi's ear, and whispered, "Ching, is there anyone I know in your restaurant?" Uchiha Kyoshi thought that under the reminder of Hatake Sakumo, Kakashi had already noticed that something was wrong. He originally wanted to use a joking way, saying, "Yes, it's me," and perfunctory. But after thinking about it, Hatake Sakumo's resurrection was for Kakashi to accept slowly. Kyoshi Uchiha moved his finger to his mouth and made a shish gesture. "It means, you know it, but don't say anything." Uchiha Kyoshi smiled and said, "The dishes in my restaurant are still to your liking, but they are all tailor-made for you." Now that the words have been said, the meaning is already very clear, but before it is completely broken, the emotional impact is still not that strong. Uchiha Kyoshi didn't want to see Kakashi cry while talking. Is that really the case? Kakashi looked forward. His mood was as complicated as the intertwined forest leaves in his vision. Finally got an affirmative answer, and a warm feeling appeared in his eye sockets. If it wasn't for marching, Kakashi really wanted to close his eyes and remember it. Although all the clues point to the only truth, I still feel as if I have been under an illusion, which is unbelievable. Kakashi said with some excitement. Seeing Kakashi's deep eyes, Uchiha Kyoshi continued. "Don't be too sad about good things, go to my restaurant more often, and I will give you a lifetime discount for a total of 100 times. Kakashi narrowed his eyes and nodded with a smile. "If you have time, you can also visit my house as a guest. My craftsmanship is also good." Chapter 33. Uchiha Kyoshi followed the troops, marching day and night in the forest. There are many peaks and rocks in the Land of Thunder, and as the location gets closer to the border of the Land of Thunder, the roads gradually become rough. Everyone kept their movements light, and what they heard the most along the way was the rustling of their feet on the grass. While hurrying, Uchiha Kyoshi was thinking about what to do after the battle. The strength shown in the war is the bargaining chip in the negotiation. There was no doubt that many people would come to him after he had done a great job in this operation. The attention within the Uchiha family is secondary. How to negotiate with Danzo, Orochimaru, etc., is the problem. His short-term goal is to enable the Uchiha family to live peacefully in Konoha for a long time. Let the honest and responsible ordinary people in the family, such as the uncle who sells tofu and the aunt who is a tailor, can live and work in peace and contentment. The necessary process is to kill Danzo. To sort it out carefully, without Danzo, the entire ninja world would be much more peaceful. Cooperating with the leader of the Rain Ninja, Sanshoyu Hanzo, instigated Hanzo to eradicate the rising new Akatsuki organization headed by Yahiko, resulting in Yahiko's death and Nagato's blackening and distorted personality. He led Yao Shido to the road of espionage, and single-handedly planned the mutual killing between Yao Shido and the director of the orphanage, Yao Shinuyu, which caused a fundamental change in Yao Shido's values. Yin snatches Shisui's eyes, directly kills Shisui, and makes Uchiha lose control. As for cooperating with Orochimaru to conduct experiments, when Orochimaru assassinated the third generation, stand still when pain invaded, and preserve strength, these are trivial matters compared to the previous ones. It can be said that there are too many books to write. Whether it's from Uchiha's point of view or not, Uchiha Kyoshi wants to kill him with one knife. It's not that complicated to kill Danzo directly. Danzo's own strength is limited. Even if you transplant Sharingan, you can use Izanagi, which is the difference between killing once and killing several times. Uchiha Madara should also be happy to lend him his pupil power to handle this matter. At that time, Uchiha Kyoshi gave Danzo the only option, which was to allow him to poke Susanoo with kunai. Just simply killing Danzo can't change Uchiha's fate in one step. The Konoha executives can only think this way. Danzo is dead, but Uchiha is still a thorn in the side and a thorn in the flesh. If you accidentally expose your Uchiha identity and be charged with treason, it will intensify the confrontation between Uchiha and the entire Konoha, making the situation even more serious. The path of leading the Uchiha rebellion has too many uncertainties. Once it is opened, it means that the whole family cannot be retreated unscathed. It is a choice that can only succeed and not fail. In this matter, the Uchiha clan is not united, and Uchiha Kiyoshi has no intention of being a lobbyist to persuade one by one. In short, in front of Danzo who seized Uchiha Shisui's riding wheel, Uchiha Kiyoshi would definitely kill him. As for the name, we still need to wait for an opportunity. The gears of time rolled slowly. Uchiha Kiyoshi looked up at the sky. Just wanting to run a small restaurant in Konoha with peace of mind is also a very troublesome thing. Shikahisa Nara found the scratches left by the sharp blade on the trees he had just passed. Apparently, there had been a battle where they were not long ago. After advancing another 200 meters, there were obvious scorched marks on the trees on both sides. Several trees were cut in half, and the upper half of the tree hanging from the crown fell to the ground. The traces are still new, indicating that the enemy may be not far away. Nara Shikahisa ordered the team to temporarily stop and observe the environment. Uchiha Kiyoshi bent down and found a huge fist mark on the half-tree. The section is rugged, and it looks like the tree was broken by a punch. A very domineering blow. When I saw this, I remembered the original rakeage. Sensho Zujian suddenly spoke again in the space of consciousness. He doesn't seem to like to use ninjutsu, he just wants to develop ninjutsu to the extreme. I fought with him a few times, and I used the tree world to descend, and he smashed the tree with one punch, and rushed towards me regardless. Come here, very violent. Seeing this fist mark, I recalled it. Uchiha Kiyoshi also felt that this was the effect of the Thunder Dun armor. According to intelligence, at this moment, the third generation of Raikage is fighting against the Yinian army on the border of the Land of Earth, which is far away from here. Then it is very likely that his Sunai is near here. Yamanaka Kai sniffed his nose and frowned. Lu Ju, there is a strong burnt smell in the air. Judging from the traces, there are two groups of people who interrupted this tree and set the nearby trees on fire. It should be that Yun Nin and Iwa Nin fought here. Nara Shikahisa tapped his chin with his hand. The situation is a bit complicated. If there is movement nearby, we don't know whether Konoha needs support, or Yun Nin and Iwa Nin are fighting. Yamanaka Hai said. Then let's go slowly, I should be able to tell the difference with sensory ninjutsu. Afterwards, Nara Shikahisa asked the team to move slowly around the humanoid radar of Kaiichi Yamanaka. Uchiha Kiyoshi also turned on the fairy mode, relying on his powerful perception to capture the details in the environment. Kakashi squinted and found that the soil in front of him seemed to be not tight enough, and the top layer seemed to have been touched by someone with his fingers. He cautiously raised his forehead, and took a closer look with Sharingan. As soon as I showed my eyes, I saw chakra flowing on the soil. Be careful, it's a clay bomb. Kakashi yelled. But when he shouted, his teammates in front of him had already stepped on it without expecting it. Water escape. Water trumpet technique. Flames shot out from the soles of their feet, and an explosion was about to set off. Uchiha cleared his teammate with water and covered the ground around the clay bomb with high-pressure water. There was a heavy muffled sound on the ground, and people standing nearby felt obvious ground vibrations. The teammate who was rescued supported his body with his hands and was still in shock. He was almost blown into a pulp. Uchiha Kiyoya sensed the chakra hidden on the ground through the perception of the immortal mode. Feeling the shock of the explosion, Shikahisa Nara took a step back in shock. This is Yinian's explosive force. He reacted immediately. Although Yinian's blasting team is small in number, the team members inside are all blood successors who have mastered blast escape. Using explosion as an attack method, it is powerful and difficult to defend, and is generally regarded as a dangerous person by other ninja villages. Not long after the explosion sounded, Heiichi Yamanaka felt multiple chakras approaching them. The enemy is coming, prepare to fight. Heiichi Yamanaka said in a deep voice. It was originally prepared for Union's explosion, but I didn't expect to let the people of Konoha enjoy it first. Not long after, a mocking voice came from the forest. At the same time, many fine clays flew in the air. Chapter 34 You hit my customer. Water escape water formation wall. Uchiha Kiyoshi completed the sealing action in an instant. With him as the center, a hemispherical water wall with a radius of more than 10 meters was formed, covering all the players without any dead ends. Ordinary water walls just create a vertical water wall from bottom to top. The improved version of the second generation of Hokage can summon a hemispherical water wall to form an all-round defense. Shika Hisanara became more curious about this child. He only saw an old ninja, Kosuke Maruhoshi, use this special water wall. And this old ninja once got a suggestion from the second generation of Hokage. The detonating clay fell down like flying cherry blossoms, causing explosions one after another at various positions on the water wall. But none of them made half a hole on the solid water wall. The strength of the escape technique depends on the user, and the blood succession limit is not necessarily more useful than the ordinary escape technique. Uchiha Kiyoshi separated his hands, and the water wall gradually dissipated. He found that although these detonating clays were similar in form to Deidara, their power was average. At this time, Deidara was very young and would not appear on the battlefield. The explosive offensive only lasted for one wave and then stopped. It seems that their speed of making explosive clay is not as fast as Deidara. Its explosion escape, be careful, they can also create explosions through their bodies. Hyansho Zujian reminded. Although he was on the battlefield, Kiyoshi Uchiha couldn't help but reply. Uncle, is there anything you don't know? Haha, there have been too many fights. I don't know how many tough battles I have fought before. Ying from several other villages is willing to sit down and have a peaceful talk with me. Carrie from the Iwanan demolition unit appeared in front of the Konoha ninjas. Carrie originally thought that by accumulating so much detonating clay, at least a few people could be injured, but he didn't expect that when he threw it, there was a splash of water. As soon as he saw the enemy's figure, Uchiha Kiyoshi rushed forward decisively. The speed in the fairy mode made it difficult for Hunting to see clearly, only to see the figure flickering in front of him, and a fist was placed on the bridge of his nose. The bridge of his nose cracked at the sound, nosebleeds splashed out, and Carrie was thrown out. What? Iwanan, who was hiding under the ground with the soil escape, didn't react. Originally, they wanted Hunt to show up alone as bait, so they hid their breath and waited for an opportunity. But the action beyond reaction caught them off guard. Only one person appeared, to bluntly ambush. Shika Hisanara murmured, and gestured to his team members to let them rush from the side. Standing behind them, he used the shadow imitation technique to follow behind them step by step. Kakashi scanned the front with Sharingan, threw the shuriken accurately, and detonated the clay mine hidden in the ground in advance. Uchiha Kiyoshi just wanted to continue chasing, 2 hands stretched out from the ground, and grabbed his 2 ankles respectively. The body leaned forward sharply, and if the footplate was not stable enough, it would have almost fallen. Kiyoshi Uchiha bent down, a large amount of chakra gathered on the finger bones, and smashed the ground with a punch. The earth and rocks cracked, and the 2 rock ninjas underneath couldn't hide, and their bodies were injured by Uchiha Kiyoshi's strange blow just now. He lay on the ground with blood spitting out of his mouth. Seeing this appalling scene, Kakashi said with emotion. Fortunately, he didn't use this strange force to hit me at that time. Carrie shook his head violently, regaining consciousness. Blood was stuck to his eyelashes, and in the blurred vision, a figure quickly ran towards him again. Hunting's heart trembled, and he immediately raised his hand to block. Uchiha Kiyoshi swung his fist towards Carrie's chin, saw the opponent's blocking movement, and suddenly remembered Senju Hashirama's reminder. The fist is stretched out halfway and immediately retracted, only for a feint. Hunting is on time. Blast escape. Dark thunder defense body. Boom. With a loud noise, The gas in the local space near the position of the forearm that Carrie used as a shield expanded rapidly, forming a strong shock wave, triggering a huge explosion. Before the smoke cleared, Uchiha Kyoshi had already come to Carrie's side, and punched Carrie on the bridge of the nose again. "You want to blow up my customers?" Hunting head tilted back. While his face was in severe pain, he felt dizzy and his consciousness was blurred. In the woods ahead of Uchiha Kyoshi there was the sound of cold soldiers clashing, and his teammates also fought with the remaining Iwanin. With the assistance of Nara Shikahisa's shadow imitation technique, the rock ninjas who lost the core of hunting were quickly defeated. Most of Iwashino escaped, and the two were caught and became captives. Nara Shikahisa suddenly felt that with someone as strong as Uchiha Kyoshi in charge, he could no longer maintain a high level of tension. He remembered one thing, and took out Konoha's ninja manual from the package, which recorded the basic information of Konoha Churin and above ninjas. Soon, he found the page of Uchiha Kyoshi. Name: Uchiha Kyoshi Chunin. Open black lens bracket good at ninjutsu, fire escape close black lens bracket. Blood succession boundary: none. Sharingan is not open. Number of missions: D level 46 times, C level 34 times, B level 6 times, A level and above 0 times. A very standard ordinary Zongnin resume. The ninja manual was last updated a week ago. There is no A-level task, that is to say, before that, Uchiha Kyoshi did not perform very well. Now it is unbelievably strong, and the highly accomplished Shui Dun is not recorded in the manual. Shikahisa Nara scratched his head, and took the ninja manual back into the package, feeling that this matter needs to be reported to Hokage. Just after fighting Iwa Shinobi, Yamanaka Kaiichi didn't relax. He turned around, facing the opposite direction to Iwanin, and sensed the enemy's breath again. "Lu Ju, our battle just now has alarmed the troops from the other direction. It can't be said to be troops, there are only two people, but both of them have strong chakras. What should we do?" Nara Shikahisa said decisively. "Let's retreat to a safe place first. The movement just now should have alarmed many people. If this drags on, there will only be more and more enemies." Shikahisa Nara commanded the team to withdraw to the southwest. "Oh, I seem to sense the breath of the tailed beast," Senju Zuma said to Uchiha Kyoshi. Uchiha Ching replied, "We are now approaching the land of thunder, so it should be the Eight Tails. Has Union dared to put Renjuli directly on the battlefield? I think they are a little reckless." During Yamanaka Kaiichi's retreat, he felt that the enemy was moving much faster than them. At the same time, there was a strange friction sound on the ground. The huge octopus tentacles stretched out on the ground, approaching quickly, and came behind them in the blink of an eye. "It really is Eight Tails." Uchiha Kyoshi stopped, gathered chakra on his calf, and kicked the octopus tentacles away. "It hurts Tilda, but it's not me who hurts, I'm helping Yao to express his feelings. Stop rambling, B. Your crappy raps are even more irritating to listen to on the battlefield." I tensed his muscles, wanting to punch Kurabi on the head. "Obviously you don't understand, but you say I don't know. This is my good brother." Chapter 35. Thick lips and dark skin are the appearance characteristics of the residents of the Land of Thunder. At the same time, the top has no sleeves and shows the arms. With a rough figure, it looks wild. Kurabi and I in front of Kyoshi Uchiha fit well. Kurabi's words were like flies flying around Ai's ears. Veins appeared on Ai's forehead. In order to allow himself to concentrate on fighting, he planned to calm down Kurabi first, and then raised his fist to punch Kurabi on the head. "We are on the battlefield, be serious. Otherwise, I will lock you up in the village." Kurabi squatted down slightly, covered his head with his hands, and quickly avoided. Although Ai's iron fist has left him with a psychological shadow, it is his habit to be wordy, and he still mutters in his mouth. "Brother, your fist is very big, I have to bear it tilde." The octopus tentacles stretched up to block Ai's punch, and Kurabi was sent flying by the huge impact, sliding several meters before landing. "Damn it, it's brother who is obviously self-willed, this punch really made me." Kurabi frowned, and looked at the tentacles of 8 tails that had been smashed and dented, and could not recover for a long time. Then he took out a small notebook from his pocket and whispered to himself. Gives me the inspiration to create. The shape left by the fist. It's incredible, it's my brother's love for me. Writing down the inspiration with a pencil, Kurabi's mouth curled up in a confident arc. Yao is too lazy to complain about how lame the rap lyrics are, he has to experience this kind of thing many times a day. He said helplessly to Kurabi. Bye, every time you are naughty in front of your brother, I am the one who gets hurt. Actually, I'm in pain too. Everyone in Konoha was dumbfounded when they saw this scene. Why did these two fight themselves first? Bye, you just stay behind and don't move. I'll deal with these people. I turned around with a serious face. He seemed to be teaching Kurabi a lesson, but in fact he drove Kurabi behind him, keeping him in a safe place. Although he believed in his younger brother's strength, he knew that Kurabi Renjuli's identity was coveted by many parties, and he habitually avoided risks for him before the fight started. Take the lead by yourself and let Kurabi assist behind. Shikaji Unara recognized that this was Yun Yin's famous ab duo, gritted his teeth, and became addicted to cigarettes. One is the son of the 3rd generation of Reikage, who has the inherited Reikage chakra mode. The other is 8 Tails Jinchuriki, whose control over the power of the tailed beast is astonishing. I don't know how far the opponent's reinforcements are from here, and when they will arrive. At this time, it is better to maintain the previous judgment and retreat. Nara Shikahisa commanded loudly. The wounded retreat first. Those who are not injured stay behind. Senjujuma said to Uchiha Kiyoshi. This Jinchuriki has a good grasp of the power of the tailed beast. He is one of those rare perfect Renjuriki. Uchiha Kiyoshi replied. I exerted force all over his body, concentrating the thunder escape chakra on his whole body, covering his whole body with chakra and lightning. Thunder escape chakra mode can activate the body to increase the speed, the chakra covered on the surface can improve the defensibility, and at the same time, the lightning bursting in the body can increase the nerve conduction speed. Kurabi put the notebook and pencil back into his arms, and several huge 8-tailed tentacles protruded from his body, swaying wantonly, ready to cooperate with Ai's actions. I saw that the one closest to him was a boy he had never seen before, and couldn't help being curious. It was he who kicked Kurabi's tentacles away with a strange kick just now. Carrie from the Iwanan demolition unit became a prisoner of Konoha, and may have something to do with him. Up, by. Air's chakra momentum rose sharply, and he launched Lei Shun, rushing forward. Ai's speed is extremely fast. Without Sharingan, Uchiha Kiyoshi can't see clearly. But the opponent's intention is easy to judge, that is to attack himself. I approached Uchiha Kiyoshi's body, and with the power of Thunder Dun Chakra, his fist blasted out like a cannonball. Uchiha Kiyoshi formed seals ahead of time, setting off a wall of water in front of him. What? The fist was blocked, and I roared and exerted force. The veins in the arm with abrupt veins became more obvious. Snapped. The water wall broke open, and Kurabi's tentacles fell from above. Uchiha Kiyoshi moved quickly and disappeared in front of Ai. With the obstruction of the water wall's vision, neither I nor Kurabi could observe Uchiha Kiyoshi's movements for the first time. I realized that his fist had missed the mark. Glaring his eyes, he immediately reacted, withdrew his hand, and turned to look at Kurabi. Watch out, B. Water escape, water breaks waves. Uchiha Kiyoshi came in front of Kurabi and behind Ai. A straight line of ultra-high-pressure water jets violently spewed out from the mouth, turning into sharp water blades. All the tentacles that Kurabi was guarding in front of him were cut open, so he could only jump forward and onto a tree beside him. Shikahisa Nara observed the situation, made seals with both hands, and activated the shadow imitation technique, thinking. Let the 8 Tails Jinchuriki stay behind and rush forward to protect him. Then as soon as Jinchuriki is attacked, he will immediately return to defense. In this way, no matter how fast he is, he can predict where he will fall. I turned around, and was about to continue chasing Kiyoshi Uchiha, when he suddenly noticed a shadow approaching quietly under his body, cursed inwardly, and had to avoid in other directions. Kiyoshi Uchiha continued to inject chakra, turned his neck, and the water blade swept sideways, cutting off the trees. The thick tree fell to the ground, and Kurabi flipped back and landed on the ground. Looking at the many half-cut tentacles on the ground, he raised his eyebrows and shook his head sadly with his hands open. Ouch, so many tentacles have been cut off, my good brother Yao, it will take a lot of time to grow back. Hachio sighed softly and said, "Bye, if you really love me, don't talk about it." "Understood, bro. Yahoo!" Kurabi let out a strange cry, and made a rapping metal salute gesture with both hands. Red chakra leaked out from the body's surface, quickly covering the whole body, and there was the sound of liquid boiling. There are 3 tails growing from the back, which is the coat of the 8-tailed beast. It's the tailed beast's coat. Shing, let me take over for a while. Hyansho Zujian said. Before, he was only responsible for maintaining the fairy mode and using ninjutsu, but now he proposes to take over full control of the body. Okay. As soon as Uchiha Kiyoshi moved his mind, he instantly became a bystander hanging up the phone and watching the show. Okay. Kurabi found that the opponent's concentration had suddenly improved to a higher level, and the feeling in his eyes was different. He rapped and cursed. Bastard, idiot. What a tough kid. The two rushed towards each other at the same time. Senjujuma has extremely high fighting talent and rich fighting experience, which allows him to make near-perfect judgments in close combat. Fist to flesh, every time Uchiha Kiyoshi and Kurabi collided with each other, there would be a heavy muffled sound. Kurabi originally thought that in the state of his tailed beast coat, his strength and speed would have the upper hand. But the strange thing is that the opponent seems to be able to accurately know from which angle he will attack next. I repeatedly waved my fists. Obviously there is no Sharingan, but it has achieved the effect of Sharingan. Chapter 36 come to an end. 8 Tails have been secretly observing Kiyoshi Uchiha in Kurabi's body for a long time. Now this person's mental state is completely different from just now, like a different person. Bye. This man is not a good stubble. Hachio reminded. Kurabi and Kiyoshi Uchiha fight. I was collectively targeted by others. On the one hand, Nara Shikahisa's shadow imitation technique is closely behind, and on the other hand, Yamanaka Kaiichi is waiting for the opportunity to use the technique of turning around. Kakashi showed his Sharingan, and whenever he got a chance, he stabbed Chidori. It's hard to take care of yourself for a while, and it's hard to support Kurabi. Kurabi was punched several times. Relying on the strong resilience of Renjuli, this was not greatly affected. While Uchiha Kiyoshi was fighting him, he kept hearing Kurabi's rapping lyrics. My ears are getting calloused, and it feels more annoying than ordinary illusions, and it does have the effect of mental torture. Kiyoshi Uchiha kicked Kurabi in the chest. Well. Kurabi retreated a few steps while clutching his chest, took a deep breath, and acted like a normal person. Uchiha Kiyoshi saw that Kurabi opened his mouth, obviously about to start again, so he couldn't help but said impatiently. Stop singing, your single bet counts as a bet. Okay. Kurabi raised his head slightly, a gleam of light flashed in his eyes, but he couldn't see it under the shade of the sunglasses. It's like matching the code. The person who can say the word, single bet, is a knowledgeable person. If it is not an enemy relationship, now Kurabi would like to have a fist bump with Uchiha Kiyoshi and exchange ideas. Yamanaka Hichi stared at Ai closely, but because the movement speed in the lightning chakra mode was too fast, he couldn't find a suitable opportunity to perform the spell. He turned his head, his vision stretched forward, and he saw Kurabi under the coat of the tailed beast. Kurabi was held back by Uchiha Kiyoshi, but it was easier to hit. Tuma, take care of my body. Yamanaka Hai said to his teammates beside him. He likens the hand to the shape of a heart, moving it toward his chest. The art of turning the heart. Use the soul to concentrate on one point and release your spiritual power. Kurabi was fighting Uchiha Kiyoshi, and Kaiichi Yamanaka's spiritual power reached his body directly. As soon as the consciousness occupied Kurabi's body, Kaiichi Yamanaka's spirit felt a huge pressure. In Kurabi's spiritual space, he saw a gigantic bull with an octopus tentacled tail. Although this will make this guy quiet for a while, I still ask you to go out. Hachio threatened with a rough voice. Then he opened his mouth wide and yelled at Yamanaka. Moo. The power of the tailed beast is like a roaring tsunami. Yamanaka felt the violent mental shock, and immediately reacted. If he didn't evacuate, there might be a big problem. Withdrawing the mind-turning technique, his consciousness returned to his body in an instant. With the support of his teammates, Yamanaka barely stood up while covering his head. His head was still buzzing in confusion, unable to continue fighting. Kurabi's body froze slightly, and then returned to normal immediately. Without Yamanaka Kaiichi's marking, Ai's pressure was slightly less. Taking advantage of this opportunity, he turned on the Thunder Dunk armor with all his strength, and the Thunder Dunk chakra around his body reached its peak state. 2 consecutive Lei Shun shook off the shadows of Kakashi and Shikaku Nara, and moved to Uchiha Kiyoshi's side. At this time, Kurabi felt more and more pressure, and the tail of the tailed beast coat on the back had grown to 5. The surrounding forests were completely destroyed, and the ground collapsed, all caused by the battle between him and Uchiha Kiyoshi. Kurabi was in front of Kiyoshi Uchiha, and I was behind him, and they started at the same time. Lei Li hot knife. The two shouted at the same time. With the help of Senjuzuma, Uchiha had an early warning early in the morning. Use water escape. Water shockwave to instantly summon water that spins and rises rapidly like a tornado out of thin air, lifting your body up. At the same time, the stream of water also smashed down, giving a violent impact. Using his hands as knives, I split the water and launched an offensive against Kiyoshi Uchiha again. Sorry, it's a little late. When Uchiha Kiyoshi fell in midair, he saw Namikaze Minato descending in front of him. Namikaze Minato used the Flying Thunder God technique to come from other battlefields. He brought Kiyoshi Uchiha to Shikaku Nara's side, and I and Kurabi rushed to nothing at the same time. The yellow flash of Konoha is coming, it's really tricky. I, who has always been confident, couldn't help feeling worried when he saw that yellow hair. Uchiha Kiyoshi glanced at Hirigami Kunai hanging on his waist. Namikaze Minato sometimes appeared at a timing that even his teammates couldn't think of. He turned his head and looked into the depths opposite I and Kurabi. Now the scene is completely dominant, but the enemy's reinforcements are coming soon. Uchiha Kiyoshi felt at least 20 unfamiliar chakras coming towards them. Namikaze Minato, who has fought continuously in other battlefields for a long time, also looks not in good condition. Master I. The footsteps staggered, and the cloud ninjas came one after another, appearing from the dark one after another. In a short while, more than 20 cloud ninjas protected Kurabi and I. Namikaze Minato put away the kunai in his hand and said, "This place is too close to the border of the Kingdom of Thunder, so we can't stay here for long. Since you have held up the Ab Duo, my mission on the other side has also been successfully completed. Let's retreat now." After the order was issued, Uchiha Kiyoshi followed the team and left the battlefield. I also did not give the order to pursue. With Namikaze Minato, the situation ahead is still unclear, and there are too many unstable factors. He turned around and left with his troops. Kiyoshi Uchiha marched for half an hour, but he didn't feel the enemy's breath anymore, so he cancelled the immortal mode. Namikaze Minato said shyly, "I'm sorry, everyone, I don't have much chakra left now, so I can't take everyone back to Konoha, so I'm working hard for you to run for a while." Shikahisa Nara replied, "It's okay, Minato. It was only natural to run back to Konoha." Nara Shikahisa turned his head to talk to Uchiha Kiyoshi. "Ching, do you guess that after you go back, the number of A-level missions will be added once, or the number of S-level missions will be added once?" Kiyoshi Uchiha didn't think about this, and said curiously, "Is there still a possibility of S-level missions? The result of the battle with the Ab Duo just now can only be regarded as a draw, not a win." Nara Shikahisa said, "During the war, what you look at is not the degree of completion, but your contribution to the entire battle situation. You played a huge role in holding the two of them back just now, and won the opportunity to adjust for other battlefields. This is where your contribution lies. Shikahisa Nara took out a cigarette and put it in his mouth, but didn't light it up, just to make himself feel better. Your previous performance is not counted, and in the task evaluation system, the score for the tailed orc Jinchuriki has always been very high. Through your battle with the 8-tailed Jinchuriki just now, we have also obtained very valuable information. After thinking about it, Uchiha Kiyoshi felt that he seemed to have overestimated the difficulty of the S-level task before. The S-level task in his mind before was at the level of the Shao organization. But if measured by the level of the Akatsuki organization, there are not many people in the whole ninja world who can complete the S-level mission. So this is all. Shikahisa Nara smiled and said. With a high probability, you are a rare ninja who has no experience in an A-level mission, and has a record of the number of S-level missions. Chapter 37. The road was calm and calm. After eating dry food, Kiyoshi Uchiha returned to Konoha. As the team leaders, Nara Shikahisa and Namikaze Minato went directly to the Hokage building to report the battle situation. Uchiha Kiyoshi went back to the restaurant to stay first, but he knew that someone would come to him soon. Nara Shikahisa pushed open the door of Hokage's office, and went in with Namikaze Minato. Hirozuru Sarutobi was sitting on the office chair, and the two Hokage consultants, Mitoman Yan and Zhuanju Kaharu, had just finished talking with him and stood beside him. Lord Hokage. Nara Shikahisa and Namikaze Minato told Sarutobi Hiruzen the battle situation in turn. Listening to their narration, Hirozuru Sarutobi's frown gradually relaxed. The battle situation is better than expected, and the situation is getting better. And according to the intelligence ahead, in order to cover his companions, the third generation of Raikage chose to fight alone against the army of the land country with as many as ninjas. It has been 2 days and 2 nights, even if it is not at the end of the battle, it won't last long. Once the 3 generations of Raikage are sacrificed, there is a high probability that Union will choose to withdraw from this protracted, costly war. When talking about the 3 generations of Raikage, Hirozuru Sarutobi's heart tightened, and he couldn't help but think of his teacher Sensho Faima. Many years ago, Kihonsho Feijian also made the same decision. In order to protect his subordinates, he voluntarily acted as a bait to delay the Golden Horn troops, and finally died of exhaustion. Shikahisa Nara and Minato Namikaze exchanged glances. Minato, let me tell. Nara Shikahisa said. Namikaze Minato nodded. Hirozuru Sarutobi asked curiously, what's the matter? Nara Shikahisa took out his ninja manual, turned to Uchiha Kiyoshi's page, and handed it to Hirozuru Sarutobi to read. Sarutobi Hizen narrowed his eyes. Uchiha Kiyoshi. I don't have any impression, I just seem to have heard Asma mention it. If I only look at these materials, I don't think there's anything special about it. Nara Shikahisa said. It's his mediocrity before that sets off his performance this time. This kid was brought by Minato and is new to this operation. You can probably understand it in this way. He captured the Iwagakure demolition unit easily by himself. The members also used their own strength to tie the 8-tailed Jinchuriki who opened the tailed beast coat. What? Mitomanyan showed an unbelievable expression. Is it a child of the Uchiha family again? Shaochan murmured in a low voice, not looking forward to such a thing. There have been examples of Uchiha Shisui before, and now there is another one. Sarutobi Hizen nodded. In other words, his strength has suddenly been greatly improved. Or, was he hiding his strength before? Minato, you found this kid. What was your impression of him before? Wavestorm said. Uchiha Kiyoshi was recommended by Kakashi, and Kakashi just said that he could draw with him. In other words, before this, he did not perform so well in this operation. Mitomanyan reminded. Could it be Kaleidoscope Sharingan? The leap in strength of the Uchiha family is nothing more than starting from Sharingan. In his opinion, every additional Kaleidoscope Sharingan in the Uchiha family is equivalent to a large time bomb. Turning to bed, Shaochan said. If it's really Kaleidoscope Sharingan, how to treat this Uchiha Kiyoshi is a very difficult problem. Nara Shikaku shook his head. That's not the case. I have observed carefully. During the battle, his eyes are always like ordinary people, and he has not even opened the ordinary Sharingan, let alone the advanced kaleidoscope Sharingan. But this point it actually corresponds to the record on his file. Hirozuru Sarutobi was surprised and said, "It's not because of Sharingan. Are there any other characteristics?" Shikahisa Nara continued, "Yes. When Uchiha Kiyoshi was preparing to fight, Yamanaka Kaiichi could clearly feel his chakra breath, and he had raised many levels in an instant. And at the same time, his appearance also changed. His face, there's red eyeshadow on my face, and lines on my face that I've never seen before." Shikahisa Nara described the specific appearance of the facial lines in detail with Hirozuru Sarutobi. "But it's not." Hiruzen Sarutobi and the two advisors looked at each other, speechless for a while. Hirozuru Sarutobi's heart beat a drum. "The appearance is exactly the same, this is obviously that adult's." "Lu Ju, are you sure you read it right?" Sarutobi Hiruzen said with a serious face. Shikahisa Nara continued, "I remember it very clearly. In addition, there are some small details that are worth noting. When Uchiha Kiyoshi used the Water Dragon Bomb technique, he only used 4 seals. Also, his water wall technique is hemispherical. Yes, it's not the usual water wall that can only block one side." Quote. After listening, even the two experienced Hokage consultants couldn't care about their own image at this time, and opened their mouths in shock. This is obviously the original water escape technique created by their teacher, the second generation of Hokage Sensho Tomona. Mitoman said. In the whole Konoha, except for the teacher's Hokage guards, the only one who has been instructed by him is Kosuke Maruhoshi. Could it be related to him? Turning to bed, Shaochan shook his head and whispered. But how can Master Zujian's fairy mode be explained? A thought suddenly flashed in Sarutobi Hiruzen's head, and his whole body shook. He felt the powerful chakra very strangely before, but he let it go because he couldn't find any clues. Now it seems that Uchiha Kiyoshi is very likely to have something to do with this matter. But for a while, he couldn't figure out what kind of connection there was between these two things. Shikaju, Minato, you have completed this operation quite well. The two advisors and I still have something to discuss. You can go to other things first. Hirozuru Sarutobi said absently. Looking at the unsightly faces of the three superiors, both Nara Shikahisa and Namikaze Minato realized that this matter was not easy. Yes, Hokage-sama. Wait until Shikahisa Nara and Minato Namikaze open the door and leave. Sarutobi Hiruzen fell into silence together with the two advisors again. There was silence in Hokage's office, and there was no sound. Hirozuru Sarutobi opened his mouth first and said, I, like you, can't figure out what this means. Why don't you ask Kiyoshi Uchiha to meet with us and ask in person? Uchiha Kiyoshi returned to Hinata Restaurant. It was the free time in the afternoon, and there were no customers in the store. Hatake Sakumo was reading the newspaper, and Senju Hashima was playing shogi with Uchiha Madara, killing time in this peaceful day. Madara, why don't we make a bet? If I win, you will wash my socks for a week. Uchiha Madara replied. If I win, rub my shoulders for a week. It's good to live in peace. Uchiha Kiyoshi was afraid that when he was away, Uchiha Madara and Senju Zuma accidentally demolished his restaurant. Hungry Uchiha Kiyoshi asked Hatake Sakumo to make him a bowl of seafood noodles. Just as Uchiha Kiyoshi took the first bite with chopsticks, a strange figure walked in the door and came straight to his side. Ching, Hokage-sama wants to see you. Chapter 38. The timing of this finding is really a coincidence. Uchiha Ching pursed his lips, feeling the heat of the seafood noodles on his face, reluctant to leave. Senju Bashima and Uchiha Madara heard the voice, and squinted at the messenger at the same time. Two sharp cold lights came, making Junichi Ito instinctively take a step back out of fear. But when I came back to my senses, I realized that they were two ordinary restaurant guys. But what happened to the oppressive feeling just now? Uchiha Kiyoshi stood up and could only ask Hatake Sakumo to help him heat this bowl of noodles in a pot. Then follow Sarutobi Hiruzen's men to the Hokage building. On the way, Uchiha Kiyoshi told Senju Zuma through the stream of consciousness. Close the door and close the business. There will be important people visiting later. Ito Junichi led Uchiha Kiyoshi upstairs and knocked on the door. Master Hokage, Kiyoshi Uchiha has arrived. He opened the door for Kiyoshi Uchiha. Entering Hokage's office, Uchiha Kiyoshi saw Sarutobi Hiruzen and 2 Hokage consultants. At this time, Sensho Zujian saw his 3 juniors through the sharing of 5 senses. The monkey is already so old. Only when you see someone you know, can you feel that a long time has passed. Yan and Xiaochen look really serious, aren't they afraid of scaring children? Senju Zuma muttered. He always felt that whether it was Hokage or high-level personnel, it would be better to be more friendly. Sarutobi Hiruzen said in a calm tone. Shing, Lujiu and Minato have already reported to me. You have made great contributions to this operation. It can be said that without you, this operation would have been difficult to complete smoothly. Not only did you protect your teammates, but you also won us about Renjuli. Valuable information. Lord Hokage has won the prize. Speaking modest words, Uchiha Kiyoshi remained expressionless. He knew that this was a cliché to express desire before talking about things he really cared about. He just wanted to get to the point quickly, end the conversation quickly, and then go back to have a good meal. Hirozuru Sarutobi smiled and said, after discussing with 2 consultants, I think that your contribution to the whole operation can be evaluated as the record of the last S-level mission. After listening, Uchiha Kiyoshi wondered if he should look happy. An ordinary person who has never even had an A-level mission record, after learning that he has actually completed an S-level mission, he should be very excited and happy with a smile on his face. But he really didn't feel any excitement. Neither like nor dislike, as if it had nothing to do with him. Uchiha Kiyoshi doesn't really care about this. I was still wondering when I could go back and finish that bowl of seafood noodles. Uchiha Kiyoshi felt that it was better to show off a little bit, otherwise the scene would freeze. Really? Great, when can I receive the bonus? Uchiha Kiyoshi has never practiced his acting skills, so this insincere sentence is very blunt. It's like elementary school students reading the dialogue in the text aloud. Only the last sentence about the bonus is filled with sincere feelings. Forehead. Sarutobi Hiruzen has lived for decades, and has never felt so embarrassed. Mitoman Yan and Zhuanju Xiaochen looked at each other, thinking that this kid was too unreasonable. I think he has no sense of honor and is superficial. Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't care about this, he laughed and said. What a real kid. Don't worry, the bonus will be handed over to you in a few days. Mitoman Yan took over the words. Shing, I called you here this time mainly to ask you something about your abilities. Uchiha Chingshin thought it was really for this matter. What specific aspects do the 3 adults want to ask? Hirozuru Sarutobi said. Shing, do you know the concept of Shanju Chakra? How to deal with this matter? Uchiha Kiyoshi had thought of countermeasures before coming. Uchiha Ching replied. I know. Presumably what Hokage-sama wants to ask is about my immortal mode. The completely undisguised affirmative attitude confirmed 100% Sarutobi Hiruzen's conjecture. He buzzed his head for half a second, stood up abruptly, and asked eagerly. Then how did you learn it? Sarutobi Hiruzen knew that there were many kinds of sage modes. Miaomu Mountain, Longdi Cave, Wet Bone Forest. The immortal patterns learned from different immortals are different. And Uchiha Kiyoshi's sage mode characteristics are the same as those of Sensho Zujian, which shows that the connection is important. Zhuanju Xiaochen and Mito Menyan were also stunned. They thought this conversation would be a tug of war. It was completely unexpected that Uchiha Kiyoshi would directly speak clearly. Rezon, you are a little impatient. Turning to bed, Xiaochen reminded in a low voice. Hirozuru Sarutobi ignored it, and only paid attention to how Uchiha Kiyoshi answered. Uchiha said calmly, Master Hokage, this is something I can't explain. If you can, please come to my restaurant and have a seat. Then everything will be clear. Mitoman Yan's face darkened. What's the matter? I have to ask Hokage-sama to go to your place in person to find out, can't you explain it clearly here? Uchiha Kiyoshi spread out his hands and replied bluntly. If you don't agree to this condition, then I have nothing to say. You. Mitoman Yan's anger was on his chest. If Sarutobi Hiruzen hadn't been sitting beside him, he would have started the training face to face. Yan, they are discussing with me. Hiruzuru Sarutobi glared at Yan Mitoman. Mitoman snorted coldly, flicked his sleeves, and forcibly suppressed his anger. Kiyoshi Uchiha continued. If Hokage-sama is too busy to get away, you can use a shadow clone instead. It's just an exchange of information, nothing special. The implication is that if you think I have any conspiracy, then use the shadow clone to ensure safety. Anyway, the information obtained by the shadow clone can be fed back to the main body. This is very sincere. Hiruzuru Sarutobi immediately replied. Okay, I still have something to do here, so let my shadow clone go instead of me. Thank you for your understanding. Uchiha Kiyoshi replied politely. Sarutobi Hiru cut the seal, summoned a shadow clone, and came to Uchiha Kiyoshi's side. Ching, can I go alone? Uchiha nodded. It involves privacy and it is not convenient for too many people to participate. When he said this, he deliberately glanced at the two Hokage consultants, meaning that they could not follow. Turning to bed, Shaochen thought in his heart. Could it be that there is really something special about his small restaurant? After Rizan returns, no matter what the result is, he should send someone to investigate again. Although Mitoman has a bad temper, he is also reasonable. If there is any important secret, it is reasonable to deal with it this way. But why can Rizan only go alone? Isn't this a clear way to guard against the two of them? Thinking of this, Mitoman felt a little unhappy again. PLZ follow me. Uchiha Kiyoshi walked out with the shadow clone of Sarutobi Hiruzen, out of the Hokage building, and walked through the streets of Konoha. Soon came to the door of Wadao restaurant. On the way, Uchiha Kiyoshi had asked Senju Bashima to wait on the second floor. Hiruzuru Sarutobi looked up at the plaque, feeling very uneasy. What secret is hidden here? Can it answer his long worried question? I suddenly remembered that I typed the consultant's name wrong, embarrassing. Chapter 39 Talking about your past. The door creaked and was pushed open by Uchiha Kiyoshi. The hoarse sound of the turning of the door shaft tugged at Hiruzuru Sarutobi's heartstrings. The lobby of the restaurant looks harmonious and ordinary. The little hermit hides in the wild, and the big hermit hides in the city. It turns out that there is a mystery hidden in the busy city. Uchiha Kiyoshi opened the door and closed it slowly, making sure no one would disturb him. He didn't want to expose Senju Hashirama's existence to Sarutobi Hiruzen so early. But the disadvantage of showing strong strength is to attract the attention of high-level officials. According to the suspicious character of Mitoman Yan and Zhuanju Kaharu and their concerns about Uchiha, it is very likely that they will keep staring at him. If you don't release some information first to divert attention, the normal operation of the restaurant will definitely be greatly affected. However, although it is exposed, it does not necessarily mean to tell the whole story. You can only show one aspect, cover it up, and achieve the effect of confusion. Sensho Zujian is here, but how he came here and what he came for, you can carefully consider the explanation. The influence of Senju Bashima on Sarutobi Hiruzen is beyond doubt. Perhaps, Hiruza Sarutobi could trust them and help them cover. In this way, with Hokage as a guarantee, those who dare to make small moves against Wadao restaurant should shrink to a small area, and it will not be so troublesome to deal with. No matter how suspicious the two advisors were, without Hokage's dispatching power to Anbu, they didn't dare to make big moves. In the lobby on the first floor, Sakumo Hatake finished reading the newspaper, and played with painting in a leisurely and elegant manner. Holding a drawing board, a piece of drawing paper, and a sketching pencil, I conceived on it with great devotion. Faced with the appearance of his old boss Hiruzuru Sarutobi, he only pretended to be intoxicated with painting and didn't see it. It wasn't Kakashi's visit, he didn't even care much. Uchiha Kiyoshi arranged Senjujuma to the second floor, and Uchiha Madara's chess game was also interrupted halfway, so he had to go to the storage room on the third floor to find if there were any musical instruments to relieve loneliness. He was born as a son of a rich family, and he also knows a little about those elegant things. Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't notice anything unusual for a while. The people here had a normal chakra breath and looked generally easygoing. Uchiha Kiyoshi led Sarutobi Hiruzen's shadow clone to the stairs, and said softly, "He's on the second floor." Him. Hiruzuru Sarutobi's heart skipped a beat. It turned out that someone was hiding here. He also understood Uchiha Kiyoshi's intention to bring him here. Not to talk to him here specifically, but to bring him to meet a special person. At this time, Uchiha Kiyoshi deliberately liberated Senju Hashirama's physical state a little, and was able to exude an obvious chakra breath. Every time Hiruzuru Sarutobi went up a step, the sense of familiarity in perception increased. Is it really Master Hashirama? Thinking of this, Hiruzuru Sarutobi's body trembled slightly. Memories flooded my mind. Decades ago, Senju Bashima led him to the Hokage rock to blow a breeze and asked him about his dream. "I want to be Hokage." Sarutobi Hiruzen replied in this way when he was a boy. "Ha ha ha ha, you are such an idiot, what's so good about being Hokage?" Since then, Sarutobi Hiruzen has never heard such hearty laughter again. But speaking of it, only an idiot can be Hokage. After many years, the boy became a half-hundred-year-old man, and his own head was engraved on Hokage rock. The irreplaceable intimacy has returned. Hiruzuru Sarutobi walked up the last step of the stairs and stopped there. The person sitting opposite put his hands on his knees and said with a smile, "Monkey, long time no see. You look a lot older. Is it because Hokage didn't go well?" "Hashiyama-sama." Hiruzuru Sarutobi's voice choked up. Appearance, temperament, tone of voice, are all exactly the same as the first Hokage in memory. It was as if the cool breeze that blew on Hokage rock that day was sent around me again. Hiruzuru Sarutobi took a few steps forward. Out of ninja caution, he had to suppress his excitement and hold back his tears. In the ninja world, there are too many false things. Seeing is not necessarily believing. Some people who have been under the illusion have died without realizing which part of the picture is illusory and which part is real. Hiruzuru Sarutobi turned around and said to Uchiha Kiyoshi, "Shing, how can you prove to me that what I saw is real?" Kiyoshi Uchiha said, "Uncle Hashirama should be able to prove it himself." Hyansho Zujian smiled, and slowly said, "Monkey, the first Earth Escape you learned was Earth Escape. Rock Hidden Art, which is a ninjutsu that uses rocky soil for invisibility and movement. You can shuttle freely among rocks and hide yourself. After you learn this ninjutsu, the first thing I did was to hide on the path that the eldest lady of the mountain family must pass every day to go home, and then..." "Okay, Hashirama-sama, you don't need to be so detailed, I already believe in your real existence." Hiruzuru Sarutobi blushed suddenly, and covered his face with his hands in embarrassment. He suddenly understood Uchiha Kiyoshi's approach better. If this kind of thing is said in public in the Hokage building, let alone being a Hokage, he can move to live on the moon tomorrow. Kiyoshi Uchiha rubbed his chin, thinking that Zilai could not be blamed for being lustful. After all, his master was also the same type of person. Who knows what Hiruzuru Sarutobi was watching with his crystal ball when he was usually alone. Hyanju Zujian laughed loudly and said, "Why are you not as thick-skinned as you were when you were young?" Sarutobi Hiruzen said weakly, "After all, he is also Hokage, and he has burdens on him." He glanced at Kiyoshi Uchiha next to him, and this kid had already heard all these things into his ears. Hiruzuru Sarutobi wished that his mouth could be firmer. Hyansho Zujian continued, "However, in order to prove my identity, let me say one more thing." Hiruzuru Sarutobi blushed even more. "Please say something serious." Uchiha Kiyoshi nodded thoughtfully. "It turns out that there is more than one dark history of the 3 generations of Naruto-sama. But there seems to be nothing serious to say." Hyanju Zujian joked. Okay, I won't tease you anymore. Your father, Sasuke Sarutobi, is one of the guardian ninjas of the Fire Country. After drinking and getting drunk with me, the classic embarrassing thing he often did was hug you, point to your ass and say, "Monkey, where's your tail?" Hirozuru Sarutobi smiled moved and awkwardly. Listening to the seniors tell the warm past is certainly worth aftertaste, but there are some problems with the subject matter of the story. Uchiha Kiyoshi on the side turned his head to the other side, holding back his stomachache from laughing. Hirozuru Sarutobi sighed helplessly, thinking that his majesty as Hokage in front of this junior was gone. Master Hashirama, you are still so humorous. He had no choice but to sigh like this. However, why did you suddenly come back to life? Judging by your physical condition, it's not because of the forbidden technique of turning around. The aura Sarutobi Hiruzen felt from Senju Bashima was full of vitality. Seems like a real resurrection. Chapter 40 The Covenant. My resurrection is an agreement with Mr. Death God. Hyansho Zujian replied. Uchiha Madara walked down the stairs holding the taiko drum that was dug out from the storage room. Uncle Ban, please set up a barrier at the door to prevent others from entering. Uchiha Kiyoshi's voice suddenly sounded in his mind. At the same time, his physical condition recovered briefly. Under the eaves, Uchiha Madara didn't bother to think too much. It just so happened that he also wanted to close the door, so that no one would come in casually and interfere with his playing musical instruments. Uchiha Madara opened the kaleidoscope Sharingan, squatted at the door, and pressed his hands on the ground. Black spell runes gushed out from his palm, covering the entire gate in an instant. Re-inject pupil force. The whole process is done in one go, with ease. In this way, only an attack at the level of Tailed Beast Jade can blast the door open. Uchiha Madara picked up the drumstick and beat it rhythmically against the drum that looked like a beer barrel. After Kiyoshi Uchiha left, Kaharu and Mito Menyon were still worried, and they found an excuse to leave Hokage's office. Using the transformation technique to disguise as a young customer, I found a Hinata restaurant on the streets of Konoha. The door is tightly closed, and nothing can be seen from the outside to the inside. Sure enough, it's closed. Mito Menyon said. Turning to bed, Shaochen whispered. Why don't we pretend to be ordinary customers and push the door? The two of them are very confident in their camouflage skills. Even if they break in and are discovered, they will not reveal their identities. Mito Menyon nodded, and then walked up together with Zhuanju Xiaohuru. As soon as they got close to the door, they heard the cadence, the beating sound of Kaiu's taiko drum beating the ice coming from inside. It sounds very level. And along with the rhythm, there is also a heroic and melodious singing voice. Anyway, when you die, don't you just have nothing and nothing? That was also a dream. It's also a dream. The two of them froze and looked at each other. What's happening here? Is the artistic atmosphere so strong? The style is still from the Warring States period. But the plan remains the same. Then, turning into a young girl, Shaochen called out to the inside with a clear and beautiful voice. Boss. Is it still open today? As she shouted, Mito Menyon gathered chakra in his hands and pushed the door hard. With such strength, even with the addition of 3 bolts, it should be easy to open. But in the end, it didn't move at all. A pair of fleshy palms seemed to be attached to the cliffs of the mountains, fighting against the weight of 1,000 pounds. I can't push it away. Mitomen let out a tisk in embarrassment. No one responded to Shaochen's cry. The two froze at the door for a moment, at a loss. It seems to be a particularly powerful enchantment, Mitomen said. Turning to sleep, Shaochen tried hard with him, but it was fruitless. She poured chakra into the door to feel how the enchantment works, hoping to start by cracking the spell. After just touching it for a while, she immediately lowered her head feeling powerless. This is the best technique, both in terms of stability and complexity. It is terrifyingly high, probably only the caster himself and members of the Uzumaki family can crack it. Mito Menyon completely lost his mind, and murmured. What the hell is going on here? Turning to bed, Shaochen replied. It seems that the other party has anticipated our actions. At this time, a passerby noticed the two consultants in a daze at the entrance of Wadao restaurant, and kindly reminded. Don't waste your time, this store is good, but everyone from the boss to the employees is lazy, and they take a break every once in a while without warning. Death can't even knock on the door. Turning to bed, Shaochan shook his head and said, I can only believe in Hiruzen. It seems that the secret behind Uchiha Kyoshi is deeper than we imagined. Don't stay here for too long. Mito Menyon turned around, ready to leave with Zhuanju Xiaohuru. But why Uchiha again? Mr. Death. Hirozuru Sarutobi said in surprise. Although he didn't know who this title referred to, he subconsciously looked at Kyoshi Uchiha. Death, the ruler of the pure land of the underworld. If it was the god of death, everything about life and death would make sense. Seeing Hirozuru Sarutobi looking at him, Uchiha Ching nodded and admitted his identity. He always advertised that he was the god of death, and Uchiha Kyoshi gradually believed it himself. But the real god of death in his mind is holding the Zanpakuto. Sensho Bashima extended his hand into a branch with a wooden escape, and handed Hirozuru Sarutobi a chair over. Hirozuru Sarutobi sat down firmly. At this moment he completely believed in the resurrection of the first Hokage. Although the facts are shocking, only when you accept them can you proceed to the next step. For Sarutobi Hiruzen, the god of death is a relatively vague and distant concept. He can ban the ghoul seal, knowing that this technique can sign a contract with the god of death. But just because of this, he understands the taboo meaning behind the god of death, and there is a price to pay for summoning the god of death. And Uchiha Kyoshi's information is clearly written on his ninja file. When to be born, when to enter school, when to graduate, when to pass the Chunin exam, one by one, realistically. How could he become the god of death again? His thoughts were like a mess, and he couldn't sort them out at all. Hirozuru Sarutobi could only wait for the other party to explain. Agreement. What the hell is going on here? Hirozuru Sarutobi asked doubtfully. Uchiha coughed twice and cleared his throat, which was a preparatory action before starting to fool around. He put a hand behind his back, pretending to be profound, and said, Although I have no intention of competing, I know the sufferings of the common people. Although Zujian Kun's soul has gone to the pure land of the underworld, he still has a strong wish to stay in the world. His heart is attached to Konoha, and he has been unable to escape into reincarnation. And I also have mine. Plan, so I signed an agreement with him. Hashirama-kun. It was the first time I heard Kyoshi Uchiha pronounce such a nasty title. Although Senju Hashirama, who was acting in a play, was calm on the surface, his heart was almost overwhelmed. It's really uncomfortable. He's not like this usually. Kionju Zujian sighed inwardly. Although Hirozuru Sarutobi couldn't understand, he was greatly shocked in his heart. Mr. Death, can you tell me what kind of agreement that is? He also called Uchiha Kyoshi like Senjujuma. Uchiha Ching replied. Simply put, there will be a catastrophe in this world in the future. I fulfilled Hashirama-kun's wish and let him return to Konoha, fulfilling his last wish. And I will use his power to resist the disaster, so that the world will not be destroyed. Paralyzed. Reincarnation remains the same, life and death are normal. In fact, Uchiha cleared himself of claiming to be the god of death, and the content he said was not bad. He is indeed using the power of Senju Hashirama to solve the problems in the Naruto world, and Senju Hashirama continues to guard Konoha through him. Therefore, Sensho Zuma didn't feel that he was lying for him. After Sarutobi Hiruzen listened to it, it was as if a boundless tsunami had set off in his heart, washing away his cognition violently. He even felt, is this taboo secret also known to me? Chapter 41 Don't go out and talk nonsense. Senju Zuma also knew that Uchiha Kyoshi's words contained nonsense in it. The so-called saying that you can't enter the 6 realms of reincarnation if you have thoughts in your heart is obviously grafted from the legends of ghosts and monsters such as earthbound spirits. Children listen to it every night. But he has always been informal and doesn't care. Future generations have their own blessings, and one generation only does what one generation does. No matter how worried Senju Zuma was about Konoha, it was not to such an intense degree. Compared to this, he is more worried about the marriage of his granddaughter Tsunade. After communicating with Kyoshi Uchiha, he also understood that it would be very troublesome to reveal his identity if he couldn't get out of the Wadao restaurant. The current goal is to have Hiruza Sarutobi help them cover. Sarutobi Hiruzen replied sincerely. I understand that the first-generation adults care about the country, and it is indeed admirable. It is the incompetence of the younger generations that makes the first-generation adults so worried. Kionju Zujian waved his hands and said, Don't say that. Hirozuru Sarutobi looked at Kiyoshi Uchiha at the side, and continued to raise his doubts. But why did Mr. Shinigami appear in Konoha in such a capacity? Uchiha Ching replied, Because of the need to resist disaster. Hirozuru Sarutobi pondered for a while. It seemed as if he didn't say anything. But another meaning is obvious. It's not convenient for me to say. That being the case, he didn't bother to ask. Hirozuru Sarutobi continued. Then, is there a special purpose for Mr. Death to bring me here to meet Master Hashirama and reveal such important news? The corner of Uchiha Kiyoshi's mouth curled up into a smile, and sure enough, Sarutobi Hiruzen realized his role on his own initiative. Sensho Zujian explained. The things of the netherworld are elusive. I was extradited by Mr. Death God, and I was already outside the rules, so I was subject to certain restrictions. My body cannot leave the Hinata restaurant, and it is not convenient to disclose my identity. But because of Mr. Death God's activities, it will inevitably attract unnecessary attention. Quote. The words have come to this point, Hirozuru Sarutobi understood. Master Hashirama, don't worry, there are only a few people who are suspicious of this matter, and I will take care of it. Do you have any other instructions? Uchiha Kiyoshi also found a stool and sat down. Now that it's the Naruto Bureau, it's inconvenient for him to talk. Although he could also make a request, Senjujuma's words should be stronger, so that Hirozuru Sarutobi could accept it more naturally. Hirozuru Sarutobi might doubt what he said. However, Hiruza Sarutobi believed in Senjujuma's request 100%. Senjuzuma glanced at Uchiha Kiyoshi. Uchiha Kiyoshi nodded, meaning there was nothing else going on. Then Kihonsho Zujian said, Monkey, there is only one thing at the moment. You just have to treat it as an ordinary small restaurant and let others not care about it. Understand? Hirozuru Sarutobi replied firmly. Uchiha breathed a sigh of relief. This matter was basically resolved. Hirozuru Sarutobi stood up. Before dispelling the shadow clone technique, he still had one thing he was worried about. He came to Uchiha Kiyoshi and said very sincerely, Mr. Death, don't reveal my private affairs. Uchiha Kiyoshi replied calmly with no expression on his face. I'm not interested in your story. I thought to myself, I will submit an anonymous article to the newspaper tomorrow. Of course, this is just a joke idea. Sarutobi Hiruzen also knows that he did it. There is no need to ruin the reputation of an old man so much. Thank you very much. Hirozuru Sarutobi thanked. Hirozuru Sarutobi straightened his body and looked at Senju Hashirama. Complex and excited emotions came to his heart again. He saluted respectfully. Kihonsho Zujian showed a gratified smile. Watching the child in front of me grow into Hokage, the deep emotion in my heart is self-evident. Monkey, it's a great thing to be able to become Hokage. I know it's hard to be Hokage, and you are working hard, but try to use more tough methods. Hirozuru Sarutobi seemed to have been electrocuted. He raised his head abruptly, feeling that there was something in Senjujuma's words. Master Hashirama, what do you mean? Kihonsho Zujian said calmly. I am not very good at political management. Many things are carried out by Tobuma. But I have also heard about some things that happened in recent years, and I have some opinions of my own. He stood up, came to Sarutobi Hiruzuki, put his hands on his shoulders, and said earnestly. For example, I am very concerned about Sakumo Hatake's suicide. I don't know how you thought about the balance at that time. But such a veteran who has made great achievements in the war and is very important should not die so pale and miserable at all. This is not what I expected. The will of fire. Think about it when you go back. I am very disappointed in your handling of this matter. Speaking of the latter, Senju Bashima's tone became lower and lower, obviously blaming and criticizing Sarutobi Hiruzen. The hands on the shoulders put full pressure on Sarutobi Hiruzen. For Bai Fang's death 5 years ago, he knew very well that he, as Hokage, could not escape the responsibility, and the regret in his heart only brought out his hesitation at that time. Hiruzuru Sarutobi lowered his head unknowingly. Senjujuma patted him on the shoulder. Hiruzuru Sarutobi shuddered, and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. He found himself speechless at all. Uchiha Kiyoshi looked at Hiruzuru Sarutobi's embarrassment in the face of Senjujuma, like a student who climbed over the wall and went to surf the internet, and just ran into the head teacher when he came back. There are really not many opportunities to watch the first generation of Hokage admonish the third generation of Hokage, and this is probably the only one. Seeing that Sarutobi Hiruzen remained silent, Senju Bashima put his hand off his shoulder. That's it. My current identity is just an ordinary person. You are the incumbent Hokage. In short, you should think less than me. Hiruzuru Sarutobi sighed heavily, holding his forehead, feeling complicated. In just a few minutes, it seemed as long as he had experienced most of his life. He saluted again to Kihonsho Zujian. Master Hashirama, take care. Go. Monkey, hard work. Afterwards, Sarutobi Hiruzen's shadow clone turned into smoke and disappeared on the second floor of Hinata Restaurant. In Hokage's office, Hiruzuru Sarutobi was stunned for a moment, opened his mouth and stared with shock on his face. After the shadow clone technique was lifted, the experience of the shadow clone was fed back to him. Seeing this, Kaharu and Mitomanyan were quite concerned about what Hiruzuru Sarutobi experienced. Hiruzuru Sarutobi looked dull and silent as if he had been hit by a sap on the head. Turning to bed, Shouchen said with concern. Rizan, what is going on? Do you have a clue? Hiruzuru Sarutobi kept rubbing the center of his brows with his hands to relieve the mental pressure. He sighed and said calmly. It's because we thought too much. The matter is very simple. Uchiha Kiyoshi met the sage who taught Master Hashirama the power of sage. He also didn't know whether he had comprehended the immortal mode in Kihonsho Zujian alone, or whether he came from studying, but he just used a random explanation to deal with the two consultants. What about the water escape technique? Mitoman then asked. It was also taught by that immortal. Kaharu and Mitomanyan looked bewildered when they turned to bed. The fairy's statement can indeed be explained, but it always feels wrong. After turning to bed, Shouchen still wanted to ask more questions. All right. Hiruzuru Sarutobi interrupted impatiently. Don't always suspect that the children who fought bloody for Konoha have any dark thoughts. Instead of fighting in the nest, it's better to think about how to solve the main problem. The war is not over yet. Chapter 42 Business is booming. The suppressed emotions that Sarutobi Hiruzen had accumulated after being admonished by Sensho Hashirama exploded on the two advisors at this moment. Kaharu and Mitomanyan don't know why Hiruzuru Sarutobi got angry suddenly. Under Sarutobi Hiruzen's glaring gaze, they had no choice but to keep their mouths shut. Uchiha Kiyoshi did not expect Senju Hashima to suddenly mention Hatake Sakumo to Sarutobi Hiruzen. He leaned back against the wall, his head resting on his hands. Speaking of which, Hiruza Sarutobi's help in this matter is entirely based on the lofty prestige of Senju Bashira and Sarutobi Hiruza's absolute trust in Senju Bashira. Uncle Hashirama, have you talked to Uncle Sakumo? Kihonsho Zujian's eyes were deep, and he kept recalling the past in his mind. The main story is from you. Shuo Mao doesn't want to talk about his past. Senju Bashima patted his head in embarrassment. When he thinks about political matters, or thinks about the controversial philosophical question of, for ninjas, which is more important, mission or life, he has a headache. Probably putting myself in the shoes, with my elm head, I can't do better than monkeys. But when I think of such absurd things, I get angry and can't help but say a few words about monkeys. Uchiha Kiyoshi was too lazy to think about the merits and demerits of several Hokages, it was a very brain-consuming thing. He only needs to calculate the monthly expenditure and income of the restaurant. Uchiha Ching took a sip of tea and replied casually. Because you are too strong and have a shrewd and capable younger brother, so you don't have to face many problems. Sensho Zuma smiled wryly and shook his head. That's true. Finally finished one more thing. Uchiha Kiyoshi leaned back in the chair, just wanted to rest for a while, but was hungry again. He suddenly slapped his forehead, remembering how long it had passed. His face was already burnt, so he hurried downstairs. Sensho Zujian shook his head, and also stood up. Hey, let's play chess with Madara. The next day, Wadao restaurant opened normally. The restaurant business is already good, but today it is more prosperous than ever. Hatake Sakumo needs a shadow clone in the back kitchen to handle it. Kiyoshi Uchiha was a little curious. Today is neither a weekend nor a holiday, and no new dishes have been launched. Why the number of customers seems to be 1.5 times that of usual. Uchiha Kiyoshi was sitting at the front desk at the cashier, and he didn't even have time to spare to continue writing One Piece. Boss. A slightly familiar voice sounded. Uchiha Kiyoshi looked up. It was his teammate in previous operations, Shimojo Tuma, a simple and cheerful young man under 20 years old. Boss, we're here too. Uchiha Kiyoshi blinked in surprise, and behind Shimojo Tuma, his other teammates also came here. They not only came by themselves, but also brought their relatives and friends to join in the show. Moreover, through the intentional publicity of these teammates, many ninjas and civilians in Konoha knew about Uchiha Kiyoshi's deeds, and they felt admiration and gratitude. Knowing that his restaurant is standing on the street of Konoha, they all stepped over the threshold to express their support in the simplest and most direct way. Uchiha Kiyoshi said embarrassingly, I am really flattered that everyone is so enthusiastic. You don't need to order deliberately, just order what you want to eat, and I will definitely entertain everyone. Nara Shikahisa put his hands in his pockets and walked in slowly. Boss Ching, I have brought you a heavyweight customer. A burly body stepped in heavily, and those who were near the door could feel the ground tremble visibly. Chu Dao Ding Zuo's round face looks very simple and honest. On the front of the clothes is a big food character circled in circles, expressing his belief in life and his determination to come here. The love for heat and sweetness is something engraved in the DNA of the Akamichi family. And the menu of Wadao restaurant can just satisfy him. Uchiha Kiyoshi responded. The heavyweight mentioned by Shikahisa Nara refers to both spending power and weight. There are more and more customers, and the manpower of the restaurant is somewhat insufficient. Although his 3 employees are very reliable in maximizing their efficiency, after all, one body can only handle one thing at a time. Uchiha Kiyoshi had no choice but to activate the shadow clone technique himself. The main body is at the cash register at the front desk, and the shadow avatar goes to introduce special delicacies to new customers. Aikido Dingza. Choza Akamichi, the patriarch of the Akamichi clan, is a well-known food critic in Konoha. He often contributes to the food column of the Konoha newspaper, recommending his favorite food. If it can be favored by Chudao Dingzao, the popularity and reputation of the small restaurant will be significantly improved. Uchiha Kiyoshi's shadow clone patiently introduced the KFC-style delicacies on the menu to Akamichi Dingza one by one. Hot wings, French fries, burgers, cola, chicken popcorn. Chu Dao Ding Zuo waved his hand and said boldly, I see, I'll take all of them. Take it all. What a handsome statement. At this time, in Uchiha Kiyoshi's eyes, Aikido Dingza exudes a sacred brilliance. Savoring this steady face carefully, it seems to be even more handsome than Daniel Wu. Sugita Tomikazu, who was rescued by Uchiha Kiyoshi from the blast mine trap before, also walked into the restaurant. Grandma, slow down. Sugita Tomikazu helped his grandmother up the steps. Is this the young man who saved you? You're so young, I'm going to thank him. You were the only one in our family. After Kiyoshi Uchiha finished his mission, on the first day of reorganizing the restaurant, he was very busy and exhilarated. Sitting on the double aura of the owner of a popular restaurant, and Konoha Nova, he gradually gained a certain reputation and established a good impression in people's hearts. However, the stories passed down by word of mouth will always gradually move away from the appearance of the matter itself as the narrator adds more details. The content that circulated at the beginning was normal. It is said that Uchiha Kyoshi and Union, who was a head taller than him, punched him, and his arm was broken with one punch. Later, it evolved into Uchiha Kyoshi punching the enemy's whole body with fractures. Later, the fist didn't reach the person, and the wind of the fist made the person vomit blood. In short, the claims are getting more and more outrageous and exaggerated. It has gradually exceeded the capabilities of ninjas. When Uchiha settled accounts, a little boy about 5 years old ran up to him. "Big brother, can you act that out?" "What?" Uchiha Kyoshi didn't know what the little boy meant, and asked curiously. "Sorry, kid. Which one are you talking about?" The little boy put his hands together with a serious face, and then made a movement of tearing from the middle to both sides. "I heard that you directly tore the hand of an enemy nearly 2 meters tall in half on the battlefield, so handsome." I'm not, don't talk nonsense. And this kind of picture should not be handsome, but scary, my child, your thinking is very problematic." Seeing the innocent expression of the little boy, Uchiha Kyoshi gradually widened his eyes. In just half a day, it was already such an outrageous version. But there is a high probability that the adults deliberately made it scary in order to amuse the children. "Little friend, this kind of action is very dangerous, and there is no way to show it to you." Uchiha Kyoshi could only sigh inwardly, and said softly to the little boy. "Then big brother, let's do something simple. You are so strong, you should be able to eat 8 burgers in one go." Chapter 43. Uchiha Kyoshi was taken aback again, not quite understanding the thinking patterns of children. Why strength conference is related to eating more? Probably children think that powerful people are omnipotent. The child is full of curiosity and will not let go, which makes Kyoshi Uchiha a little headache, so he has to think of a reason to send him away. "Big brother, big brother." Just when the little boy was screaming, Uchiha Kyoshi was at a loss. The appearance of a man helped Uchiha Kyoshi solve the problem well. Uchiha Kyoshi smiled, and showed a kind smile to the little boy and said, "Little friend, if you continue to be naughty like this, Orochimaru will come to you." In Konoha, parents lull their little ones to sleep, and Orochimaru comes into play when classic ghost horror stories don't work. Orochimaru has a pale complexion and a thin body. He is unsmiling in daily life and has a stern face. A pair of snake pupils always have unfriendly eyes. Coupled with his perverse personality, he always exudes an unfriendly aura, which makes adult ninjas want to retreat 3 points when they see it, let alone children. Moreover, everyone in Konoha knows that Orochimaru and snakes are companions, so they can't help but think of him as cold-blooded as snakes. Orochimaru often sticks his tongue out of his mouth tens of centimeters, and then shows a piercing sneer, which makes many people feel strongly uncomfortable when they see it, and they have to make a detour when they see it. Therefore, except for bold children like Hongdu, most children are very afraid of Orochimaru. The little boy panicked when he heard the words, "Dashawan." I don't believe it. Big brother is lying, how could it be such a coincidence?" Uchiha Kyoshi pointed in the direction of the door. "I didn't lie to you, he has already walked in. If you don't leave, he will stick out his long snake-like tongue, wrap around your neck, shrink slowly, tighter and tighter." Uchiha Kyoshi's tone became more and more gloomy, and his expression also pretended to be mysterious and gloomy. Just speaking of this, the little boy had already started to cover his head with his hands, so scared that he couldn't help himself. "I am an obedient child, Dashawan will not come to me." He looked back, and sure enough, he saw a cold, white and serious face under the long hair, which was Orochimaru. Kyoshi Uchiha continued. Getting closer, getting closer. Finally, you find that you can't breathe, your tongue sticks out, and your eyelids turn white. Seeing that the atmosphere was in place, he stood up suddenly, pretending to reach out to grab the little boy. "It's like this, Tilda. Ah. Don't catch me." The little boy was so frightened that he jumped back a big step, with a sad face, yelled and ran away, and disappeared in a blink of an eye. Woo. Uchiha Kyoshi faintly heard the little boy's sobbing, and he suddenly felt a little guilty. It's just a baby, there's no need to make him cry. However, on second thought, Son, this is the only way to become a ninja. To become a ninja requires an extremely strong psychological quality, so that you can face all problems calmly. Even if you blame me, it doesn't matter, I am doing this for your own good. Uchiha nodded his head, and immediately felt no guilt, but a sense of mission ignited in his heart. Well, I was right. Orochimaru walked into the Hinata restaurant with Midori red beans. Midori Anko has been clean and tidy since she was a child, and her style is that of a tomboy who is not afraid of anything, so that she can adapt better after becoming an apprentice of Orochimaru. Midori Anko followed Orochimaru with squinted eyes and a smile. She raised her head and looked at the food names and pictures on the wall with bright eyes. Wow, the ice cream sprinkled with jam looks delicious. Orochimaru glanced at her sideways, and said in a hoarse voice. Red Bean, you promised me that I will take you here to eat well, and when you get back, you will experiment seriously and don't complain. The experiments that Orochimaru is talking about here are not the inhumane human experiments he cooperated with Danzo. It's just some normal biochemical experiments allowed by Konoha. Got it, got it. Teacher, don't make me beg you. Obviously you promised me before, but suddenly you want to go back on it. TCH, if you talk too much, I will use punishment instead and make you willingly stay in the lab for a whole month. Orochimaru said impatiently. He hates other people talking to him about these meaningless bickering. Sorry. Midori Red Bean obediently shut up. She has already made it to the restaurant, and she doesn't want to fail. Uchiha Kiyoshi quietly watched the pair of master and apprentice from the side. At this time, Orochimaru seems to have some human touch. Although he is still so cold and poisonous, he has not yet fully evolved into an extreme careerist. As for the impression of Red Beans, Uchiha Halal wished that he hadn't read Bo-Ren biography. I haven't read the blogger's biography, but my good impression of her will always stay in the Chunin exam, the young female examiner who wears a khaki jacket and uses a black net shirt to set off her beautiful figure. He is heroic and has a bold personality. Although he has an impulsive personality, he looks quite cute. Not the fat ant in the blogger's biography, who is so fat that she can hardly wrap her clothes. The ninja who was at the same time as Midori Anko maintained a good stature from beginning to end, only she is unique. Presumably that's the price to pay for unrestrained sweet tooth intake. The next time Midori Red Bean comes to Wadao restaurant for consumption, Uchiha Kiyoshi will recommend her to eat some vegetarian salad. Let's just take these, eat here, and then pack a copy exactly the same. Orochimaru said to Uchiha Kiyoshi. Midori Idzuki smiled happily and said. It's so cool to eat while doing experiments. Okay, please take a seat first, and the food will be served soon. Kiyoshi Uchiha found out that Orochimaru helped Matar wash the red beans and went to take a seat after ordering, so he didn't take a second look and paid too much attention to him. It shows that the current rumors have not attracted the attention of Orochimaru. After Orochimaru digs out more information, I don't know what kind of thoughts will come up. After all, Orochimaru, who is engaged in scientific research, will always look for all the conditions that can promote the progress of the experiment. Uchiha Kiyoshi recalled carefully. According to the timeline of the anime Kakashi Anbu, after the Kyuubi incident ended and Hirozuru Sarutobi returned to Hokage, there was also a scene where Danzo and Orochimaru met privately in the laboratory. It shows that the time when Orochimaru defected was at least after that. If Orochimaru wants to get in touch with him, there are quite a few opportunities. At lunchtime, the number of customers coming in gradually decreased. Only a few people who have irregular schedules, or who have missed meals for various reasons, will come in and order. His acquaintances and customers all walked out one after another. Welcome next time. By the way, Kiyoshi Uchiha was in charge of the function of Miss Welcome. Shimojo Tuma came to the front desk and put his hands on the table to support himself. Uchiha Kiyoshi saw that he smelled of alcohol and his face was flushed. He seemed a little unable to stand up. Toma, do you need help? Uchiha Kiyoshi expressed concern. No, as a ninja, you still have some willpower. Shimojo Tuma said with a smile, and took his hands off the table. Boss Ching, You must consider what I told you. What's up? Uchiha Kiyoshi didn't remember any instructions. Shimojo Tuma chuckled, swung his arms back, and pointed in the direction of the lobby. I talked about it when I was on a mission. You should hire some female employees earlier. The one in the blue dress is too fierce. Chapter 44. There are female employees here. Uchiha Kiyoshi couldn't help laughing. He thought about it for a while, and thought it was a big deal. It turned out to be this. It is indeed a big deal. A normal restaurant needs both men and women. Uchiha Ching replied. Don't worry, I take it to heart. Shimojo Tuma nodded. I trust your vision. Uchiha Kiyoshi smiled and said. What's the point of view? It's just recruiting employees. Shimojo Tuma turned his head, looked behind him, and hurried a few steps to the door with a little panic. Stop talking, I'll go back first. I just said bad things about that person. I feel he is staring at me. In fact, Kiyoshi Uchiha really wanted to explain that this employee of his is not targeting anyone, but treating everyone like this. Wadao restaurant was open until the evening. After the dinner time, the customers left one after another. Quickly cleaned the house, tidied up the tables and chairs, and it was the most anticipated rest time of the day. Kiyoshi Uchiha came to the backyard, put the paper and pen on the table, and served a glass of iced cola, taking a sip at any time. After finishing the plot of Judiciary Island, I will publish it. Uchiha Kiyoshi said to himself while writing. He stopped writing suddenly, recalled Shimojo Tuma's suggestion before, and began to think seriously. There are Nami and Robin on Luffy's Sunshine, but my restaurant is full of men. Uchiha Kiyoshi also wants to recruit 1 or 2 female employees from the Gusido system to improve the current gender ratio. But the question is, who to hire? At this point in time, the more attractive female characters in Hokage are either not born or are still alive. Even Grandma Chio is still alive and well at this time. It's not like you can't use up thousands of wishes. Uchiha Kiyoshi originally thought of summoning Senju Tomonama after Senjujuma, but he changed his mind after being suggested by Shimojo Tomechi. However, if he really didn't think of a good candidate, he would still choose to summon Thousand Hands. Since you have no idea, let's go through it and find it one by one from the 5 major countries. The first is the country of fire where Konoha is located. Uchiha Kiyoshi first thought of Uzumaki Mito, Senju Hashirama's wife, Tsunade's grandmother, and also the first Kyuubi Jinchuriki, who mastered the powerful sealing technique of the Uzumaki clan. This is a good candidate. Uchiha Kiyoshi has now remembered it in his heart. The other is his peer Nohara Rin. Uchiha Kiyoshi has a good impression of Nohara Rin. A gentle and kind young medical ninja. When I think of Lin, I think of Obito. When confronting Obito in the future, Uchiha Kiyoshi will definitely resurrect her. Obito, I've already created a world with Lin for you, so stop causing trouble everywhere. However, imagine if Lin knew the insane things Obito did for her. Could it be that even if he was resurrected, he would have no motivation to live and be pissed to death on the spot? Lin also doesn't seem to like bringing soil. But now, there are limited rooms upstairs. Uchiha Kiyoshi doesn't really want to summon her so early. The country of water, no. The land of thunder, no. Land of earth. Uchiha Kiyoshi's only female who has some impression of the land of earth is Leg Shadow, Kuroto, but Kuroto is younger than him. Only the kingdom of sand remains. Regarding Sand Hidden, Uchiha Kiyoshi remembered a person who had news on the recent battlefield. It is Yi Kang who has the limit of burning blood. According to the original plot, the 4th Kazekage Rasa deceived him to go to Wuin village under the pretext of performing a secret mission, and was attacked and killed by a ninja in Wuin village disguised as a friendly army without any precautions. Victim. Kiyoshi Uchiha was impressed by her backless outfit. But it seems that there is no special meaning in calling her, and I don't know whether Yi Kang has passed away. After considering the 5 major countries, it is the small countries and the characters in the theater version. The women who appear here are basically from the Naruto period. Fenghua Xiaoshui from the land of snow, Miko Xian from the land of demons, Jinchuriki from the land of Taki, Sarah from the land of Lulin. Lulin country. This is the country that appeared in the theatrical version of The Lost Tower. He doesn't remember the specific plot clearly. What is certain is that Kakashi was still a chunin when he followed Namikaze Minato to the Lulin Kingdom to perform missions, that is, it has been a few years since now. Lulin Kingdom at this point in time should not have been buried by yellow sand. If necessary, the power of the dragon veins is very useful, but that's all for a later story. After thinking for a long time, Kiyoshi Uchiha decided on the next summoner. Whirlpool Mito. Uchiha Kiyoshi put down the pen in his hand, stood up and walked towards the shrine. As he entered the house, footsteps were heard from the other side of the house. Sensho Bashima walked towards him and shouted, "Shing, someone is looking for you, it seems to be the patriarch of Uchiha. Uchiha Fuyuke. Why come to me now? If it is to remind you to add the Uchiha clan emblem to the plaque, there is no need to come and inform me twice in a short period of time." Understood, I'll go right now. If someone came to visit him, he could only put the summoning on hold for a while. Senju Bashirama opened the door, and Uchiha Fugaku walked in. Seeing his patriarch's solemn expression, Uchiha Kiyoshi asked curiously, "Patriarch, what's the matter?" Uchiha Fugaku replied, "I'm sorry, Shing, to bother you at this time. But I also consider that you have to open during the day, and there are too many people here, so it's hard to discuss. And this matter is really urgent." Uchiha Kiyoshi was even more curious. Is it related to the family? Uchiha Kiyoshi found that Uchiha Fugaku treated himself more politely than last time. It should be that he knows his record in this mission, and his evaluation of his strength has changed. Before, Uchiha Fugaku only regarded him as a business talent, but now it is the second time to look at him with admiration, and he regards him as a very reliable combat force in the Uchiha clan. Maybe the request this time has something to do with it. Uchiha Fugaku said in a slow tone. Actually, we have discovered this problem for a long time, but at first we thought it was an accident. Later, it happened more and more times, and we gradually realized that someone was secretly operating. Halfway through Uchiha Fugaku's words, he glanced at several employees of Uchiha Kiyoshi next to him, hesitatingly said, How about, Shing, you'd better follow me to my house to discuss." Uchiha Fugaku was worried that it would be unsafe to talk in front of these employees he didn't know. Uchiha Chingshin thought that even if he told Uchiha Fugaku that these people were fine, probably he would not let go of his vigilance. "Just go for a walk." "Okay, Patriarch," Uchiha replied refreshingly. Seeing that Uchiha Kiyoshi did not refuse, Uchiha Fugaku can also feel that Uchiha Kiyoshi is still more concerned about family affairs. He often thinks about a sensitive and important issue. That is the emotional tendency of young people in the clan. "It's not too late, let's go." Uchiha Kiyoshi went out with Uchiha Fugaku together. The door is closed. Sitting by the wall, Uchiha Madara, who silently witnessed this scene, shook his head slightly. It seems that Uchiha's current patriarch is not very happy. Chapter 45 The Missing Corpse. Uchiha Madara still can't forget the painful scene that many years ago, he raised his arms and shouted in front of the whole clan as the patriarch, but no one responded. Even the people he wants to protect no longer trust him. Now that he has calmed down and analyzed, maybe this incident made him completely chill about the usual method, and turn to seek the Moon's Eye project. Uchiha Madara knows some of Uchiha Kiyoshi's thoughts. He felt that Uchiha Kiyoshi, like him before, wanted to solve the problems of the Uchiha family within Konoha. The difference is that Uchiha Madara no longer regards this as a path that can be followed. Uchiha Kiyoshi came to his home with Uchiha Fugaku. Sit cross-legged opposite each other at a low table by the yard. According to etiquette, the younger generation should kneel before the elders. But Uchiha Kiyoshi doesn't like the uncomfortable posture of kneeling and sitting. Uchiha Fugaku didn't care, it's more important to talk about things. From the news he got, Uchiha Kiyoshi was already too strong. Fighting against the Eight-Tails Jinchuriki, who is proficient in controlling the power of the tailed beast by one person, this sounds like a cage-level character. He can disbelieve the rumors that came out of nowhere, but he can't disbelieve a real S-level mission record. There is no weak person who can complete S-level tasks. Uchiha Fugaku said. Ching, I held an internal meeting with a group of elders in the afternoon. The main direction is a strange thing that has existed since the beginning of the war. Uchiha straightened his body and concentrated on listening. We found that many of the bodies of the same people who died on the battlefield disappeared. Corpse. Missing. Uchiha Kiyoshi exclaimed softly. Uchiha Fugaku just said this, and he could already imagine what the situation would be like. There are many people in this world who are afraid of the power of Uchiha Sharingan, and some people have the idea of coveting it and want to take it for themselves. In the nearby Konoha village, there are Danzo and Orochimaru. During the war, many Uchiha people died on the battlefield, and it is a very convenient way to obtain Sharingan from these irresistible corpses. Seeing the change in Uchiha Kiyoshi's face, Uchiha Fugaku knew that he had already guessed some reasons. Uchiha Ching replied, You mean, someone stole the corpse of the same family? Uchiha Fugaku sighed softly. I don't dare to jump to this judgment, but if it is not the case, how can it be explained? Uchiha Kiyoshi asked doubtfully. But it should be rare for a whole team of ninjas to be wiped out. As long as someone dies, his teammates should know the location of the body. Uchiha Fugaku frowned and concentrated on sorting out the information in his head. Having said that, when a ninja is caught in a life and death situation on the battlefield, he often can only take care of himself. And in some cases, such as being killed by the fog concealment technique, the sight is blocked by the thick fog, and teammates cannot find out the location and whereabouts of the corpses, or the large water tunnel will disperse the entire team, making them unable to communicate with each other, etc. Uchiha Fugaku put his hand on the table and knocked heavily, feeling a little depressed. The so-called fallen leaves return to their roots. Every clansman sent out here has family members who look forward to their safe return. The order I have always given to the clansmen is to bring back the corpses of the martyrs as much as possible. Even if the living cannot bring when I come back, I can let the long-awaited family members take a look at the remains, which can be regarded as an explanation. After hearing these words, Uchiha Kiyoshi felt a little depressed. Trampling even dead bodies is intolerable. Patriarch, things are still a little fuzzy. After this phenomenon happened, since you have already intentionally retrieved the bodies of your fellow clansmen, what's the result? Uchiha Fugaku replied. First of all, the step of disposing of the corpses can only be done after the battle is over. When my subordinates hurried back to their original positions after a fierce battle, the corpses of their teammates had disappeared. This is one of them. Second, after the war started, as long as the Uchiha people participated in related tasks, they frequently came into contact with what I just said, such as encountering the mist hidden art. I have also experienced the Second Ninja World War, and the number of times counted now is very abnormal. Third, the sacrifices of the tribesmen with Sharingan seem to be designed. Encountered the situation of being separated from teammates, and then the corpse disappeared on the battlefield. It can be said that as long as there are clansmen with Sharingan, their corpses will definitely not be found. Quote, Uchiha Ching understood what Uchiha Fugaku meant, and said, The number of people with sharing eyes is not large, that is to say, as long as the intelligence is sufficient. Deliberately targeting them does not require a lot of manpower and energy. Uchiha Fugaku nodded, his face heavy. You got the point, but the premise is that there is sufficient information. And those who have detailed information about our characters and mission trends. Uchiha Fugaku stopped talking, this is not something he can easily judge. The implication is clear. Only Konoha's senior management can know. Uchiha Kiyoshi suddenly thought of his record in the ninja handbook. The column of Shueiji boundary is none, Sharingan is not turned on. Then the Uchiha people who have turned on Sharingan will fill in the column of Sharingan, in the column of Sharingan. Because ordinary ninjas do their best on the battlefield, even if they don't report this content, they will be known about the situation of Sharingan after participating in 1 or 2 combat missions. This information is not that difficult to obtain. But there are some explanations for the task trend. The ninja who performs the task will not know the specific content of the task before receiving the task. But the level of management that issued the task will know and can arrange it in advance. Kiyoshi Uchiha probably sorted out the thinking of the organizers. Let the Uchiha people with Sharingan receive tasks under special circumstances. The specific information of the battlefield is in the hands of the planner. He can specifically let the Sharingan owner touch dangerous people, and there is a high probability of encountering ninjutsu such as large-scale water escape that disrupts the battle situation. Teammates were temporarily arranged, and they were not familiar with each other. They were probably subordinates of the organizers, and they were also responsible for recovering the corpses. His subordinates may not need to carry it directly back to Konoha, as long as they hide the corpse and put it in a suitable place, and let the follow-up personnel handle it. Although it is a bit confusing to say, the identity of the organizer is easy to guess, that is Danzo. Danzo has both this ability and this motivation. The roots he cultivated were meant for this kind of dirty work. Because the tongue is marked with a spell, it will not leak information. Because the status and power in Konoha are second only to the third generation, it is not very difficult to arrange general tasks for the designated person. There are so many ninjas in Konoha, the third generation will not be specific enough to personally arrange every task. Moreover, Danzo really wants to write Sharingan. In Uchiha Kiyoshi's memory, the battle between Danzo and Uchiha Shisui. Originally, Danzo had been controlled by Uchiha Shisui with illusion. But he tricked Shisui with Izanagi, and then performed Duanyan. In other words, at that time, he had already successfully transplanted Sharingan. Now it seems that he has found the reason for how his Sharingan came to be. Chapter 46 The Uchiha Family. If Danzo wants to transplant Sharingan, he needs a certain number of Sharingan to experiment. Uchiha Kiyoshi wanted to understand all this, but after thinking about it, he felt that he should not tell Uchiha Fugaku about this for the time being. He still doesn't know Uchiha Fugaku's character and thoughts. I don't know what kind of actions Uchiha Fugaku will make. If he is impulsive and irrational, it may have an extremely negative impact on the entire family. With the resources and calculation ability in the hands of Uchiha Fugaku, it should be inferior to Danzo. According to the direction of the original plot, it should be that Uchiha Fugaku didn't find out any results, and finally let it go. Even if Uchiha Kiyoshi's anger in his heart may not be lower than that of Uchiha Fugaku. Uchiha Kiyoshi suppressed his emotions and said, "So Patriarch, what can I do now?" Although he already had some vague solutions in his mind, he still made such a statement. Uchiha Fugaku shook his head slightly. "I haven't thought about how to deal with this matter now. I just want you to understand the situation and protect yourself. With your strength and talent, it is extremely important to the family. I don't want you to encounter any accidents. At the same time, I also ask you to pay more attention to these things, and if you find a breakthrough or any clues, please let me know as soon as possible." Uchiha nodded. "Thank you Patriarch for your concern, I will try my best." "So be it." Uchiha Fugaku closed his eyes and rubbed his eyebrows. Vaguely, with the passage of time, he felt that the path of the Uchiha family became narrower and narrower, and the end seemed to be a dead end. What does dead end mean? He didn't dare to think about it. He sees himself as a paranoid person who always thinks the worst about things, so he doesn't want to face his concerns. It was a dilemma that he couldn't solve with all his strength. "I hope I think more," Uchiha Fuyu murmured. Uchiha Makoto came to the low table with a plate, brushed away the hair on her temples with her fingers, put it over her ears, and put the snacks and tea on the table. She looked at Uchiha Fugaku and complained softly. "You always like to talk about these serious and tense things with young people, and even Itachi is affected by you. He is only 4 years old, and he always likes to talk to me about some big truths that I can't understand." Uchiha Fugaku smiled helplessly and said, "I don't want to talk about it all the time. I also want to read the newspaper and drink tea when I get home from get off work, but the reality is like this. There is no way. I have to be prepared for danger in times of peace." Uchiha Makoto frowned slightly, although she was complaining, but she understood what Uchiha Fugaku said in her heart. Uchiha Makoto turned her head and whispered in the direction of the nearby corner. Itachi, don't eavesdrop, have you finished your evening practice? How many times has mom told you that you will grow up prematurely if you keep listening to these things? After finishing speaking, the sound of thin and broken footsteps came from the direction Uchiha Makoto was facing. It was Uchiha Itachi who slipped away. Uchiha Fugaku said seriously. It's because you are too used to him that you dare to confront you all the time. Uchiha Makoto put her hands on her waist and said unconvinced. Itachi is only 4 years old, how can I be willing to hate him? And you can't speak in such a tone to a pregnant woman. You are not only hurting me, but also Sasuke in my stomach. Uchiha Fugaku, who has always been stubborn and difficult to compromise, took a look at Uchiha Makoto's stomach, and obediently succumbed. I'm sorry, Makoto-sama. Uchiha Fugaku whispered and, I'm sorry, that he seldom said in a very awkward expression and tone. Cough, cough, Mikan, save me some face in front of young people. Uchiha Makoto put her hand down and smiled happily in the proud pose of a winner. I am the patriarch's wife, and my face is also your face. Uchiha Kiyoshi was amused, and picked up the snacks on the plate to cover his mouth, so as not to laugh out loud in front of the patriarch, so as to give him some self-esteem. Although Uchiha Makoto has beautiful long hair, a gentle temperament, and a soft manner, with willow leaves hidden between her eyebrows, and a 3-point smile. Women like Yamato Nadeko. But upon observation, it seems that the inner disposition is also very lively. This may also be the reason why she and Uzumaki Kushina have been friends for a long time. Da da da. The same sound came from the wooden floor as before, but it was getting louder. Uchiha Itachi ran over, looked up at Uchiha Makoto and said, Mom, I want some snacks too. Uchiha Makoto stretched out her index finger, and lightly tapped Uchiha Itachi's forehead. This is for big brother, you can go to the kitchen and get your share. Uchiha Itachi looked at Uchiha Kiyoshi, and remembered that this was the owner of the Hinata restaurant he frequented, and felt very friendly. But scratching his head, because he had never spoken before, he didn't know what to say for a while. Uchiha Kiyoshi didn't know how to tease children, so he just stared at him. Brother, the food you make is really delicious. Uchiha Itachi held back such a sentence for a long time, and then ran away in a hurry. Cough. Uchiha Ching was choked, and quickly passed it down with tea. Uchiha Fugaku said, the child is young, don't worry about it. Uchiha Kiyoshi waved his hand. No, no. Uchiha Makoto smiled and said, Boss Ching, you are a gourmet. My techniques are rough. Please don't forgive me if the things I make are not to your liking. There are wagashi, mizuyokan, sakura mochi, daifuku on the table. There are many kinds, exquisite materials, and good presentation. Uchiha Kiyoshi had to admit Uchiha Makoto's good craftsmanship. These desserts he ate were sweet but not greasy, very refreshing. Uchiha Kiyoshi smiled and said, I like all the dim sum made by Aunt Machen. Uchiha Makoto laughed and said, that's good. In fact, you can call Fuyu uncle or uncle, and then call me sister. I have different opinions with him. Uchiha Fugaku glanced at his wife angrily, but didn't say anything. He also took a piece of pastry from the plate and ate it. After eating snacks and eating more satisfied, Uchiha Kiyoshi left from Uchiha Fugaku's house. He walked quickly back to the Hinata restaurant, and continued to think about what Uchiha Fugaku mentioned to him just now. If you want to solve this problem, the most direct way is to find Danzo. Before meeting Danzo, you need to prepare some chips. With Danzo's cautious character, he strives not to leave any clues in everything he does. But as long as something is done, it is impossible to leave no trace. Fish ripples as they pass through the water. At least Danzo asked his men to do these things. His subordinates are insiders. Although Danzo set various curse marks on his subordinates, restricting their actions. But Uchiha felt that it might not be possible to eliminate these curse marks. Perhaps Danzo is very confident about this. But the next person he wants to summon, Uzumaki Mito, is an expert among experts in this field. The princess of the Uzumaki family may have the strongest sealing technique, and her attainments in spell seals and spells are second to none. Uchiha Kiyoshi stood up and walked towards the shrine without hesitation. Facing the familiar scene, Uchiha Kiyoshi recited in his heart. Whirlpool Mito. P.S. Some transitions in the middle do not indicate the specific time span, so add up to 30 days. Chapter 47 Hashirama, your wife. The soul of Whirlpool Mito has been detected. Your current wish power is 2780, which meets the summoning requirements. Do you want to summon? Close black lens bracket. Sure. Subsequently, Kiyoshi Uchiha chose the physical condition after Uzumaki Mito's arrival, 28 years old. It's just changing the state of the body, and it's not that the memory stays at the age of 28. Uzumaki Mito will still remember everything during his lifetime. Keep the knowledge and usage methods of all seal ninjutsu learned. 28 years old is a mature and energetic age, and his strength will not be weak. Presumably Sensho Zuma would be happy to see his daughter-in-law look young again. The thoughts resonate with the shrine, the white shimmer lights up, and the soul sleeping in the pure land of the underworld is awakened. Counting this Hatake Sakumo, who was summoned without spending power, Kiyoshi Uchiha has summoned a total of 4 characters. Every time there is still a sense of anticipation. The light of the shrine dimmed and entered a state of rest. Uzumaki Mito, wearing a white robe, came to Uchiha Kiyoshi. The signature fiery red hair of the Uzumaki family, the ends of which are tied into 2 buns. There is a diamond-shaped imprint between the eyebrows. Uchiha Ching guesses that it is the same as Tsunade, storing chakra's yin seal. Oval face, willow leaf eyebrows, expression and demeanor have their own demeanor. The princess of the Uzumaki clan looks beautiful yet dignified, with a heroic look on her brows. In short, Uchiha Kiyoshi's impression is that he has a beautiful appearance and a stable temperament. She is a powerful woman who can sit in the rear. Senju Zuma didn't know that his wife was already in the same room with him at this time, and he was still concentrating on the shogi game with Uchiha Madara. Uzumaki Mito opened her eyes. Just like the previous characters who had just arrived, she couldn't understand the current situation for a while. In front of him was a young man he didn't know. Although it looks good, it really doesn't impress. Are you here again? Uzumaki Mito wondered. She looked around. It was a restaurant decorated in the Fire Country, but he had never been there. Uchiha Kiyoshi was a little too lazy to explain. Every time a newcomer came, he had to repeat his bluffing rhetoric. Let's ask Hashirama to explain. Senju Bashira in the hall slammed the table, and Uchiha Kiyoshi could hear a loud noise. Senju Zuma said to Uchiha Madara. Madara, you play chess in a bad way. Is this also called yin? This is called strategy. Before getting Uchiha Kiyoshi's response, Uzumaki Mito stared at the direction of the voice with almond eyes. Her husband's voice called Uchiha Madara's name. This is how the same thing. Uchiha Kiyoshi shouted into the hall. Uncle Hashirama, your wife is here, hurry up and explain. Senju Bashima, who was staring at the chessboard with his back bent, straightened up suddenly, put down the chess pieces in his hand, and walked over impatiently. Uchiha Madara also stared in the direction of the shrine. Sensho Zujian murmured. Stinky boy, you didn't tell me in advance when you called Mito. I said why I was upset from just now. It turns out that my wife is nearby. Kyansho Zujian came to the vicinity of the shrine, and in his vision, the long fiery red hair was coiled into 2 balls, which was a familiar appearance to him. When there is no outsider around, Sensho Zujian is used to cancelling the transformation technique, removing the disguise, and returning to the original appearance. Uzumaki Mito looked behind Uchiha Kiyoshi in astonishment. When her destiny was approaching, she handed over Kyubi to Kushina Uzumaki, and passed away naturally and smoothly. It has been many years since I saw Senshu Zujian. It's just that the voice and smile in the memory are still so familiar. The intuition of the Uzumaki clan can't lie, and the people in front of her are as good as the fake, just like the big boy who likes to giggle the first time she saw it. Uchiha Kiyoshi consciously left, leaving this place to the two old couples. Uzumaki Mito's tears welled up in his eyes and flowed down uncontrollably. Between the pillars. Compared with the tenderness of the whirlpool Mito, the love is like water. Sensho Zujian was so excited that he hugged her directly. Mito, I miss you. Sensho Bashima swept his arms around, and Uzumaki Mito fell directly into his arms. Uzumaki Mito couldn't calm down, so he put his hands on Senju Hashirama's back and sobbed. Kiyoshi Uchiha scratched his head. Every time he summoned a new character, the atmosphere was different. Last time it was tit for tat and swords were on the verge of breaking out, but this time it was the love between the husband and wife, and the harmony of the harpsichord. He stood aside, smiling at the warm picture of the reunion. I can't help but imagine what kind of wife I will marry. If he was looking for a wife, he felt that he would not choose the path of shrine summoning. After a while, Senju Hashirama and Uzumaki Mito finished expressing their accumulated emotions, leaving behind a lingering aftertaste. Senju Bashima patiently explained the current situation to Uzumaki Mito. It tells about the pure land of the underworld, the god of death, and the one sitting there drinking tea is Uchiha Madara. As soon as Uzumaki Mito heard Uchiha Madara's name, his teeth itched with hatred. Under the comfort of Kihonsho Zujian, he barely calmed down. Uchiha Madara didn't care about the arrival of Uzumaki Mito, and it was not something he could control who Uchiha Kiyoshi summoned. Under the management of Uchiha Kiyoshi and the shackles of the nameless barrier, no matter what identity or strength he was in life, it is not so important. Uchiha Madara has a headache when he thinks about it, and sometimes he even needs to help children eat. To be realistic, it would be a good thing to have one more person to help him share those boring chores. Uzumaki Mito looked at Kiyoshi Uchiha, and said slowly. Even if the five senses are clear and the facts are right in front of my eyes, I still find it hard to believe that this is real. Uzumaki Mito's self-awareness is still at the stage of an old woman, so she unconsciously calls herself an old man. Senju Hashima put his hand on Uzumaki Mito's shoulder and said with a smile. Mito, you are young now, not an old woman. As soon as Uzumaki Mito woke up, he found that his body had returned to the state of his youth. In the past, her breathing was weak, she was very old, and it was very difficult to lift her wrinkled hands. Now her palms are white and smooth, like jade carvings. The powerful chakra of the Uzumaki family flows in the body. Afterwards, Senju Hashima added some details to Uzumaki Mito. While explaining when and where she was, she also talked about the fact that the granddaughter Tsunade is still in her 30s and not married, and why. He thought Mito Uzumaki would worry with him. Unexpectedly, Uzumaki Mito said quietly. What happened to Tsunade is, in the final analysis, one of the traumas caused by the war. You were so frank with other big countries, and you even allocated tailed beasts. But as soon as you passed away, they couldn't wait to tear up the peace agreement and started the war. Although what happened with Tsunade and Dan happened during the Second Ninja World War, but if you were stronger back then, how dare other countries covet Konoha? Uzumaki Mito spoke sharply, leaving Senju Bashima speechless. Uchiha Kiyoshi also had to sigh that Uzumaki Mito is indeed a woman with a strong personality. Uchiha Kiyoshi changed the topic to help Senju Zujian. Mito, I summoned you this time to ask for something. People are on the train, the update may be unstable, everyone forgive me. Chapter 48. Uzumaki Mito stretched out his hand and said. Please say. From Senjujuma's tone, Uzumaki Mito could tell that her husband had a good impression of this child. She doesn't have much opinion on Uchiha's prefix. In Uzumaki Mito's view, there are good people and bad people in Uchiha. Uchiha Madara's ambition makes her jealous, but she also sees other Uchiha's contributions to Konoha. Among the Hokage guards in the Senshubajian, there is also a Uchiha tribe named Uchiha Mirror. Rich in brains and talents, he also dedicated his life to Konoha. He was appreciated by Kihonsho Fajian and also recognized by her. It's a pity that he died young. Uchiha Kiyoshi, Uzumaki Mito, and Senju Hashima came to a table in the lobby and sat down together. Since the last time I met with the third generation, Wadao restaurant has been closed every day, and a complex barrier will be set up. People outside can't come in, and they can't hear the conversation inside. Kiyoshi Uchiha said. Mito, do you know a curse seal called tongue curse eradication? Uzumaki Mito nodded, and immediately judged the direction of Uchiha Kiyoshi's conversation. Could it be that what you want to say has something to do with Shimura Danzo? Danzo used the curse seal on his subordinates. If the person who was cast said anything about him, his whole body would be paralyzed. Can't speak, can't move. Tuanzo. Hyansho Zujian repeated a sentence in puzzlement. When he died, Danzo was far from becoming the leader of the root organization, and he only knew that he was a ninja in the same class as Sarutobi Hiruzen. Uzumaki Mito has a certain understanding of Danzo and his root organization. Uchiha Ching replied. Yes, this matter is about the Uchiha family and Danzo. I don't know what your opinion is about Danzo. Before talking about the topic, let's take a look at Uzumaki Mito's attitude towards Danzo, so that we can talk about helping. When the three of them were talking, Uchiha Madara on the side also turned his head quietly, paying attention to what they said. Uzumaki Mito sorted out the memories of Danzo in his mind, and said. Although this junior didn't do anything outrageous under my nose. But I heard some rumors about him. The evaluation of him may not be very good. Even though, he is often on Konoha's side. Quote. Hyanju Zujian said curiously. What do you mean most of the time? Then there are times when he is not on Konoha's side. Uzumaki Mito said. There are also elements of my speculation in it. The root tissue established by Danzo, as the dark side of Konoha, handles all kinds of dirty work, which is understandable. But I heard that the ninjas of the root organization disappeared frequently, and most of the reasons were executed for crimes such as leaking confidential information. I think there are probably not so many traitors in Konoha, and the more likely reason is that they were killed secretly because they had information that was not conducive to Danzo. Later, Danzon learned the curse seal of tongue disaster, and this situation was better. Also deepened the possibility of my guess. Quote. Uzumaki Mito turned his head to look at Senju Hashirama, who was bewildered. In the past, Phaegian secretly helped you deal with those disgraceful things. In fact, this kind of organization has existed for a long time. It's no surprise. The middle-aged Senshujujian understood the meaning of light and shadow in a village, but he didn't expect that Konoha, who seemed to be bathed in the sun, had become so indifferent and bloody in the shadows. He scratched his head and muttered softly. It's no wonder Phaegian used the flying thunder god technique to disappear suddenly. I don't know where he went. Uchiha Kiyoshi did not expect Uzumaki Mito to talk about so many things, and he, a traveler, has no way of knowing about many long-standing events. Danzo's black history is really full. And Uzumaki Mito treats Danzo more thoroughly than he does. Uchiha Kiyoshi felt that he was still too superficial in his understanding of King of the Pot. Senshuju asked directly. This guy is called Danzo. I remember he was quite timid before, how could he be like that? Uzumaki Mito glanced at her simple-minded husband angrily. It is precisely because of his timidity that he often talks about, ninjas must sacrifice themselves, but when it is his turn, he can't do it himself. What I just said means that as long as Danzo satisfying one's selfish desires, Konoha's interests are secondary. Uzumaki Mito couldn't help but raised his hand and knocked on Senjujuma's forehead. I usually fight and giggle, but when I really want to think about serious things, I don't know what to do. Uchiha Kiyoshi looked at Senju Hashirama's absent-minded expression, as if he enjoyed being knocked. Uchiha Kinghawa returned to the topic and said, Yesterday, the current patriarch of Uchiha talked to me. After discussing it, I suspect that one thing has something to do with Danzo. He is only skeptical now, and did not immediately pin the blame on Danzo. Uncle Hashirama has already said that now is the period of the Third Ninja World War. The matter is very simple, that is, the bodies of the sacrificed Uchiha clan disappeared mysteriously on the battlefield. As soon as the topic came out, Uzumaki Mito and Senjujuma fell silent. In connection with Danzo's statement just now, they can already guess a bit. Uchiha Kiyoshi continued. Moreover, this kind of incident is mainly manifested in the owner of Sharingan. Uchiha Madara's expression on the side gradually became dignified. In fact, when he was underground, in order to have a substitute for himself after transplanting the reincarnation Ida Nagato, I have also done the recycling of Sharingan. At that time, he devoted himself to the Eye of the Moon project, and he didn't care about the friendship of his clan for a long time. It's just that when Uchiha Madara ordered Highway to handle this matter, he often found that someone was one step ahead of them. The answer has now undoubtedly been found. Uzumaki Mito said. Shing, what is the basis of your speculation? Uchiha Kiyoshi smiled and said. I have no basis now, only practice. Although you ask this, I believe you also think that if the range of suspects is narrowed to Konoha, the number one suspect is Danzo. Uzumaki Mito frowned and said nothing. This is true, but I don't understand how Uchiha Kiyoshi quickly locked onto Danzo. Usually, this old fox hides quite deeply. Uchiha Kiyoshi put his hands on the table and said seriously. My idea now is to capture Danzo's men, and ask you to help untie his curse seal on his tongue. Uzumaki Mito immediately shook his head with a straight face. You are too careless to do this. Although you are saying that torture is just a matter of words, you will inevitably take cruel and unconventional methods against this person. If you make a mistake in your guess, how will you deal with it afterwards? This didn't people accept inhuman torture innocently. Uchiha Kiyoshi knew that Uzumaki Mito might reject him, so he had already prepared the next step. That is to say, the experiment of the collaboration between Danzo and Orochimaru. Danzo and Orochimaru transplanted the cells of Sensho Zujian into ordinary people as experimental materials. This is something that Uzumaki Mito absolutely cannot tolerate. Of course, not only these, but also. Before Uchiha Kiyoshi finished speaking, Uchiha Madara suddenly stood beside the three of them, and interrupted him abruptly. I can attest. Chapter 49, A Simple Plan. Uchiha Kiyoshi turned his head in surprise. Uchiha Madara, who usually puts on a disgusted face towards him, has now started to take the initiative to participate in the topic. Standing next to Uchiha Madara, Uzumaki Mito's face suddenly became ugly. She frowned sideways and said coldly. Do you think there is any credibility to what you say? Facing Uzumaki Mito's disapproval, Uchiha Madara's expression didn't fluctuate at all. I'm just saying what I think, it's up to you to believe it or not. The two didn't deal with each other, and the embarrassing one was Sensho Zujian. Senju Zuma thought that he couldn't always let Kiyoshi Uchiha come forward. He was the first generation of Hokage after all, and it was time for two people who were close to him to fight. Cough, cough. Senju Bashima coughed twice, stood up, put one hand on Uzumaki Mito's shoulder, and the other on Uchiha Madara's shoulder. Mito, Madara, give me face, let's talk about things first, don't argue anymore. What does it have to do with you? Uzumaki Mito and Uchiha Madara shouted in unison. Good, good. Senju Zuma sat down dejectedly, pretending nothing happened. Uchiha Kiyoshi returned to the topic and said. Madara, you mean you found it when you were underground? Uchiha Madara replied. That's right. I'm always paying attention to the corpses of my people. I can tell you clearly that my subordinates found a ninja wearing an animal mask and took away the remains of my people before I did. A ninja wearing an animal mask either belongs to Anbu or belongs to the root organization, but Anbu directly belongs to Hokage, and will not be reduced to doing these things. Whirlpool Mito said coldly. Madara, it seems that after the Battle of the Valley of the End, not only did you not die, you also lived for a long time. So what? Uchiha Madara replied bluntly. If there is no Uchiha Kiyoshi, he still wants to continue to hide. But with Kiyoshi Uchiha, his hidden plans are no longer a secret. In the end, everything will be on the table, so it doesn't matter if you reveal some. Although the matter was discussed, the atmosphere on the scene became more and more serious. Uzumaki Mito did not have a long-term friendship with Uchiha Madara like Senju Hashirama did. Ever since they met, she has been wary of this man all the time. Uchiha Kiyoshi is very used to conflicts among employees. The stories of these people are weaved together, and they can't be told for days and nights, so there is no way to understand them. There was no fluctuation in his heart, and he even wanted to add fire. Kiyoshi Uchiha said. Also, Mito, you might care about another thing. Uzumaki Mito raised his eyebrows and said curiously. What's up? Uchiha Ching replied. Because of the shocking strength shown by Uncle Zuma during his lifetime, after his death, many people still covet his power. You may have heard of Orochimaru's enthusiasm for human experiments. And Danzo is currently working with Orochimaru cooperates, and the experimental material is Uncle Hashirama's cells. Before Uchiha Kiyoshi finished speaking, Uzumaki Mito's anger reached the bottom of his heart, and he slapped the table and said loudly. You mean it? Can they really do such a stupid thing? Uchiha Madara frowned. In fact, he was also scolded. I thought to myself, why Danzo has such a high degree of overlap with what he did. They all want to transplant intercolumn cells, and they all go to collect Sharingan. Senju Zuma gasped. So far, Uchiha Kiyoshi has not deceived him on important matters. His face became as ugly as Uzumaki Mito. It's not that he is obsessed with his cells being abused for no reason and feels insulted. Just sympathy for the innocent victims who were experimented on. He understands that the power in his cells can directly destroy a person's life. Uchiha nodded. In order to prove that this is not just my nonsense, I will let you witness it with your own eyes. It should be in the near future that one of Danzo and Orochimaru will take the initiative to contact me, and you will know by then. Uzumaki Mito slowly clenched his hands on the table, closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and murmured. Wouldn't those younger generations with bad intentions be able to sit still if we old things are gone? Uzumaki Mito forcibly calmed down, and responded. It's okay, as long as you can prove to me that Danzo is indeed doing some shady things, I will definitely help you. Uzumaki Mito thought for a while, and said. However, no matter what you said is true or false, I think you really want to bring Danzo down. Kiyoshi Uchiha smiled. It was all discovered by you. Forget it. After all, he has been targeting the Uchiha family all his life. I am afraid that he will suddenly attack the Uchiha family if he catches any opportunity. On these serious and sensitive issues, Uchiha doesn't want to talk anymore. It doesn't matter what Danzong is. Anyway, sooner or later he will die. I think we should care about a more important thing. The other three looked at Kiyoshi Uchiha in unison. Wasn't what we talked about before important enough? What could be more serious than that? Uchiha Kiyoshi crossed his hands, put them on the table, and said solemnly. Think about it. Mito just came here. Do you want to eat barbecue or hot pot today? The flow of people at Wadao restaurant will not increase sharply. And the employees are very capable. One person can be used as two people. So when Uzumaki Mito arrives, Uchiha Kiyoshi can go fishing in an open and honest manner. Uchiha Kiyoshi came to the publishing house with his carefully prepared paper manuscript, and discussed with the owner of the publishing house about publishing One Piece. He has finished writing the climax of the Judiciary Island plot, and it is time for One Piece to be released in the world of Naruto. In the room of the publishing house, the middle-aged Kazuma Sato, holding Kiyoshi Uchiha's manuscript in one hand and his glasses in the other, looked at it seriously. Am I the man who is going to be the One Piece? Sato Kazuma mumbled thoughtfully. This is indeed a very powerful sentence. But it is a bit weird to use it on pirates. But the story as a whole has a passionate and positive atmosphere, which is in line with the spiritual direction of the third generation of Naruto-sama for young people. There is no problem in the review. See, the thief itself has a mysterious and rebellious atmosphere, which will attract readers more. Sato Kazuma put down the paper, took off his glasses, and rubbed his eyes. The words just now lingered in his heart for a long time. Emotions surged, and I suddenly remembered my dream when I was young. I am the man who will become the king of novels. He was also a young man who had uttered such bold words. However, the world is unpredictable, and his dream is gradually buried in the silent time. Under the dual pressure of livelihood and family, he had to go home and inherit his father's publishing house business, becoming a rich man who had lost his dream. Live and unpretentious and boring life. The story of the hot-blooded boy brought back memories deep in his heart. Your novel is very good. If the follow-up is still of such high quality, I will consider giving you a % discount. How many copies do you want to print? Let's have volumes first. Uchiha Kiyoshi said. The bounty for the last S-level mission has been paid out, so he can spend it well. I see. By the way, what about the pseudonym you haven't mentioned yet, or are you using your real name? Pen name. Just Masashi Kishimoto. Uchiha Kiyoshi took a pen and wrote down this emotionally complex name on the white paper. Tidying up the dormitory on the first day of school, I have been busy until night, let's just write a chapter today. Chapter 50 Orochimaru. Uchiha Kiyoshi's first pseudonym was decided like this. If Bleach is serialized in the future, the pen name will be Eiichiro Oda. Staggered to come. Coming out of the publishing house, Uchiha Kiyoshi went to the wholesale market, preparing to serve food for his restaurant. Since none of his employees could come out of Wadao restaurant, the purchases all fell on his head. By the way, I need to bring a razor for Uncle Sakumo, and some daily necessities such as messy combs for Mito. At the beginning, Uchiha Kiyoshi had been thinking about the physical condition of the person summoned from the Gusido system. It is like a body reincarnated from dirty soil. The body state is not disturbed by the outside world, it is almost at rest, will not get sick, and will not age. Or does it have the same basic metabolism as a normal person? Just like reading an archive, it just reads a person's physical state from a certain point in time and continues to run. After getting along for so long, Uchiha Kiyoshi discovered that it was the latter. His employees need to replenish energy from the outside world, eat and drink, and maintain a normal life cycle. I bought a razor for Hatake Sakumo because he had grown a long beard. Hatake Sakumo also joked that using the method of fire escape can be done once and for all. By analogy, decades later, Senjujuma and Uchiha Madara will still have wrinkles, age spots, rickets, and memory loss. Although the tortoise has a longevity, there is still time. Uchiha Kiyoshi doesn't know if he can resurrect himself through the Gusido system after his death. Thinking wildly, Kiyoshi Uchiha passed a remote corner. There was a puddle of water ahead, and Uchiha Kiyomi stepped over it. Hiss, hiss. Hearing the strange sound, Uchiha Kiyoshi stopped the foot that was about to step down in the air, and moved a position. The soles of the feet moved away, and a small white snake appeared. Very small, probably only a little thicker than a brush. Konoha is close to the mountains and forests, so it's not surprising that such things appear in residential areas. It's just that this little white snake has a delicate appearance, and its pure white snake scales are shining brightly under the sunlight. Originally a cold-blooded and intimidating creature, Uchiha Kiyoshi, who is not close to snakes, had an inexplicable joy of appreciation. I heard that snake meat is delicious. Uchiha Kiyoshi murmured. Uchiha Kiyoshi retracted his foot, glanced at it, and the little white snake straightened up like a human being. Its eyes were facing him, and it slowly uttered a message, as if it was greeting. One person and one snake looked at each other like this for 5 seconds, and the little white snake suddenly turned its head, stretched out, and then quickly rushed into the entrance of a narrow alley next to it. Uchiha Kiyoshi subconsciously looked in the direction the little snake was moving. A tall, thin man in a white kimono stood at the entrance of the alley, leaning against the wall. Long hair over shoulders, pale skin, deep snake eyes above purple eyeshadow, stern face, but with a slight smile. It turned out to be Orochimaru, the chief scientist of Konoha. Only when he saw Orochimaru, Kiyoshi Uchiha would think of the biochemical knowledge he had learned before traveling. The alley was blocked from the sun by the buildings on both sides, and Orochimaru's body was half hidden in the darkness. Orochimaru looked at Kiyoshi Uchiha with a smile on his face, as if his tongue was wriggling in his mouth. Although the picture and atmosphere are very weird, Uchiha clearly understands that Orochimaru is just admiring a high-quality experimental product, and doesn't have too many thoughts about him as a human being. Even thinking this way, Uchiha Kiyoshi blushed a little shyly when he was stared at by such evil eyes. No wonder Konoha often gossips about whether Orochimaru likes men. Older, single, not good at women, dressed differently than ordinary men. Just looking at these, it is a reasonable guess. It was Uchiha Kiyoshi's expectation that Orochimaru found him, so he followed Orochimaru's expectation and walked over. At the same time, the consciousness suspension function is turned on, so that Uzumaki Mito can understand the content of his conversation with Orochimaru. Uzumaki Mito was sitting at the table in the room on the second floor of Hinata Restaurant, thinking about Konoha in this era, and what other things need attention. Would you like to visit my lab? Maybe there's something you're interested in. A hoarse voice suddenly came from her ear, and then, the space in front of her eyes changed, and the figure of Orochimaru appeared. Mr. Orochimaru, sodium hydroxide can turn phenolphthalein red, iodine solution can turn starch blue, and plant cells will undergo plasmolysis when immersed in hypertonic solution. Although I am very interested in science, I am very interested in your scientific research is not of interest. Uchiha Kyoto rambled a few words in order to give Uzumaki Mito time to react. Uzumaki Mito saw the surrounding scenes and heard Uchiha Kiyoshi's voice before he realized that his body was resting on Uchiha Kiyoshi's body. Although the Uzumaki clan also possesses many extraordinary means that are considered taboo, but she has never seen this kind of ability. Orochimaru talked with Uchiha Kiyoshi with great interest, but he didn't know that a third person had joined in. Many gray snakes ran out from under his robe, serving as sentinels. While leading Uchiha Kiyoshi to a deeper and more remote place, he continued the topic just now. These pediatric things are not called science, and I don't want to call my work a science before I break through the mysteries of life and death. Orochimaru's hoarse and magnetic voice represents his latent desire. Uchiha Kiyoshi followed Orochimaru confidently. Although Orochimaru looked mysterious, it didn't arouse his extra interest. Uchiha Kiyoshi said in a heavy and impatient tone. Oshimaru, what are you trying to do by pretending to be a ghost like this? If you have something to say, hurry up and say it. If it's later, I won't be able to catch up with the hot meal at noon. There was another hissing sound of snakes spitting letters, like cold wind passing by the ear, making people feel numb. When talking about something of great interest, Orochimaru is used to sticking out his unusually long tongue and licking around his mouth smoothly. The saliva hanging on the mouth is as disgusting as the body fluids of snakes. You look more anxious than I am, which is not a bad thing. Orochimaru chuckled lightly, with an unconcealable smile in his tone. Uchiha Kiyoshi crossed his hands in front of his chest, showing disdainful eyes. These people can't talk well, and they still have to come to this gloomy alley full of atmosphere. Orochimaru turned his head, exposing half of his face to Uchiha Kiyoshi. The light smile seemed more meaningful in the gloomy sight. You know, I've been researching a very interesting forbidden technique called reincarnation. It can summon the dead ninja souls back to the world and resurrect them in physical form. Although I'm just new to it now, I haven't fully mastered it yet. But among the strong dead, I am most interested. One is Senju Hashirama, and the other is Uchiha Madara. If the conditions are sufficient, I will try to summon them too first.